To say the Saints have been less than impressive in their 2 preseason games would be, well, less than accurate. Frankly, they've stunk. And apparently, frankly, they don't give a damn. Coach Kellen Moore said Wednesday the starters will mostly be on the bench for Friday's preseason finale versus them Dallas Cowboys. Is this the right move? Or is the team limping into the regular season against maybe the 2 toughest teams on their schedule? Well, maybe they should reconsider, although they won't. What about LSU? Do they have a legal fight on their hands against the SEC? And is this a fight that Lane Kiffin can't win? Thursday regular and NOLA.com assistant sports editor Zach Ewing will be here with us this morning, and the Pick'em crew will finish off the division predictions. You may or may not like them as we get in the AFC South and your beloved NFC South. Will you agree with us? Will you care? It's time to find out. You'll have plenty to say as the Dattitude podcast, well, thank goodness. It's up next.
Ready to hear the straight scoop on local and national sports? It's time for Jim Derry's take on the Saints, LSU, what betting lines to ponder, and more. He's got opinions, he's got insight, and he's got Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
What is up this morning, Dattitude family? Apparently the heavens, they didn't like Kellen Moore's decision because it was raining Bucks, Panthers, and Falcons this morning. It was insane. The Causeway closed. Had to write a story before went on the air this morning. Didn't close for long. Thank goodness it reopened back up, and it's just been nuts. I think we got about 2.5 inches of rain here at the house this morning. But we know it's always clear and sunshiny on Dattitude, episode number 535, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Thursday, August the 27th, 2026. In case you're new here and wondering, who is this guy? What's he doing? What's he talking about? My name is Jim Derry. And for 36 years, I've worked my way somehow. They let me work in the local sports media scene here in New Orleans, and here I am. It's going to be 36 years coming up on Monday. Monday marks the 36th anniversary of the first story I ever wrote for the Times-Picayune. And the sad thing is, to show you my age, I know that it was a Belle Chase High School football game. I have no clue who they played. And every now and then, I'll go look it up, and then I forget. So, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. But I don't even know if it was I think it was a real game. It was August the 31st, 1990, which just so happens to be our producer's birthday, but it was well before he wasn't even a gleam in his mother and father's eyes back. Gabe, did your parents, they weren't married in 1990. Did they know each other in 19? Do you know? You know? The thing he doesn't know. Well, Gabe is very passionate about the things he cares about. If he doesn't care about it, who gives a shit? That's kind of true, right? Anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun today. What is on today's show? We got a lot on today's show. You see it in the title slide there. If you're looking, Saints sitting, mostly sitting, that is, the starters, which when you say mostly sitting, means your quarterback's not going to play. Means your starting running back almost certainly isn't going to play. Means the Chase Youngs of the world aren't going to play. You might have a couple fringe players, guys who are on the cusp of starting will get in there. Is that a good idea? I'd like to get your idea, your thoughts. That is not today's poll question, by the way. We'll get to that in a minute. But what are your thoughts on mostly sitting? Now, look, there's two ways to think about it. And you can look at it as, you know what? This team has just stunk it up in the preseason. I know that preseason, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter, but do you really want to be 0-3 in the preseason? Do you want to limp your way into the regular season? Do you want to look this stinky, considering how bad the backup quarterbacks have looked? Or do you want to go in there and have a little momentum? But then the other way of thinking is, you know what? This team's had so many injuries this year in the preseason, unlike last year. It's been completely different than last year. So do you want to make sure that they don't get banged up, the starters? I could see both sides of it. You know me. I'm not a preseason guy. We've always said the most important thing during preseason, at least on this show, Mike Detillier said this before preseason even started. I've said it for years. The most important thing is to not get anybody hurt. But at some point, you need to balance it out, right? So I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, I don't know that playing your starters for a series or two would be the worst thing in the world. So I'm on the fence. I'm not going to sit here and blast Kellen Moore for doing basically, like I say, I mean, there's only one reason you wouldn't play him, and the reason is you don't want to get him hurt. So I understand both sides of it. What are your thoughts? Whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the fact or listening after the fact, we would love your comments. You know how to do it. That's what's special about this show. You talk to us, we talk back to you, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. We hit a mini milestone this week. We got a little surge of subscribers this week, so that's good. But tell your friends about us. If they haven't already subscribed to the Dattitude YouTube page, please, by all means. There you see the QR code on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, you're like, what the hell is a QR code? Because if you're listening to the podcast-only version, my guess is you're old like me, and you might not even know what a QR code is. But if you're watching, there it is. Top right on your screen, you just point your little phone at that thingy, and it'll take you right to the Dattitude YouTube page, and you can sign up. Click the little bell to receive notifications. Give us a like, a thumbs up, if you haven't done so already. See, I'm smiling. And we thank all of our we thank all of our Dat family members down there. All of the people you see on the bottom of the screen are paid members. They have paid to help keep us on the air here on YouTube, and we appreciate them so much. They are also members of our Dattitude Slack channel. That's part of what you get with the Dat family. And I think our Dat family member football league, fantasy football league, did it finally fill up, Gabe? He doesn't know. He doesn't look. Well, he's going to look. He's not the best producer in the business for nothing, folks. He's putting this thing together. He's going to look it up and see. We had one spot, but it had been promised. So I had about 3 or 4 other people reach out. Anyway, Gabe says he doesn't know the intricacies of his parents' relationship. Okay, that's fine. All right. We won't get into it. I guess I probably shouldn't bring up personal stuff on the air like that anyway. Without just asking him and say, you know what, but you know me, half the time I don't even know the crap that's going to come into my head. It just comes in my head and I spew it out like Ron Burgundy on the screen reading messages, which is coming up. Get into your comments in a moment. What else we got this morning? Okay, talk about the Saints mostly sitting starters. What about the kicker battle? That is actually a story. We're going to get into the kicker battle this morning. It is now a 3-man race, if you didn't know this already. Who's going to win it? You know, maybe Zach's going to be able to give a chance to tell me maybe I was wrong. Because he said it was going to be Tanner Scott. I said it was going to be Charlie Smith. And it might not be either one of them. Might be Daniel Carlson. Who should it be? They all looked pretty decent yesterday in the scrimmage, the little intra-squad scrimmage amongst themselves. Apparently, Tanner went 8 for 8. Charlie Smith went 7 for 8, and Daniel Carlson went 7 for 8. So they only missed 2 out of 24. See how quick I did that? They only missed 2 out of 24 kicks. Pretty impressive, I guess. That decision is going to have to be made very soon. By the way, if you didn't realize this, camp ended yesterday, so now it's into practice mode going forward. They're getting ready. They're traveling today, going to Dallas for the game tomorrow night against the Dallas Cowboys, final preseason game, and then it's practice. It's getting yourself ready for the Detroit Lions. The cuts will coming up. I think they're this Tuesday. Gabe, can you look that up for me too, if you don't mind? Can you look that Tuesday? I think is the final cut down day. By the way, we have one spot open in the fantasy league. If you're watching Musette, you got to join today, or you're going to lose your spot. I got 3 people on the waiting list to get back in there. So Musette, if you're watching, take that invitation. Get yourself in there if you want to play with us in the DAT Members Fantasy League. Also, today we're going to be talking about a little bit about LSU. We kind of touched on it the other day, but now we've had development since Monday's show. Lane Kiffin versus the SEC. I mean, we could say LSU versus the SEC, but it's really Lane Kiffin's BS. The SEC, Big 10, Big 12, did they all do something right for a change? They're stepping in and saying, oh, no, guys, we don't want these NFL players, so that's coming up later on the show. Also, at the end of the show today, as we have been doing the past 3 weeks, it is installment number 4. It is 4 out of 4. We're going to look at the AFC North and the NFC North. AFC and NFC South. Our AFC South picks, NFC South picks. Where do we have the Saints? That leads into today's poll question that we're going to get into before I tell you about our friends. And I made it tough for everybody, by the way. You can't just pick the Saints. So that way, I didn't even put the Saints in the poll question. The Saints are not an option because I would have a lopsided. It'd be 80% Saints. You'd have UBN and a couple of the stragglers voting for Atlanta or whatever it is, just to be different. So here's the poll question of the day. And I'll give you my answer in a little bit. Who will have the best season of these 4 teams? I don't want to hear, I think the Colts are going to have the best season, or no, it's the Saints. The Saints aren't on here. You cannot vote for the Saints. So of these 4 teams, which will have the best season in 2026? Type in the number 1 if you think the answer is the Houston Texans. Type in the number 2 if you think the answer is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Type in the number 3 if it's the hated Atlanta Falcons. And type in the number 4 if it's the less hated but still probably hated Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will give you my answer when we get closer to the time, because we're not going to close this poll until probably almost the end of the show. So there you go. Got a chance to vote in the poll today? One team is running away with it right now. Who am I going to vote for? I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to let you know. It's a secret. I would be giving too many spoiler alerts given away on this show. But anyway, you have all show to vote. If you're behind later, it doesn't matter. As long as you vote before we close the poll, which will probably be around 10:15, 10:20-ish, somewhere around that. Zach's coming on at 9:30. So as long as you vote before we close the poll, your vote will count. And remember, don't type in NO period or pound 1 or 1 or 3. Your vote doesn't count. If you don't type in either 1, 2, 3, or 4, your vote doesn't count. That's it. Just the number, the numeral. That's it. By the way, Gabe says, cut. Is that when they make cuts? They have to have cuts in by then? Wow. That's earlier than usual. Anyway, cuts have to be in by Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, so 5 p.m. obviously here. That means we'll have something to talk about on Monday, because that'll be interesting. So we'll have on the birthday edition. By the way, it's birthday week. Did you know? To the host and the producer, director, whatever you want to call him back there, assistant, whatever you want to call him. Just don't call him late for dinner. Whatever you want to call him. It's our birthday week. That's right. Saturday, your host is having a birthday again. I'm still here. I'm like a cockroach. And then Gabe Henderson, his birthday, we can have a Monday show edition. The anniversary of my first story in the Times Picayune 36 years ago, and the Gabe was not here 36 years ago. I believe. I don't care if he doesn't. He probably doesn't care if I say his age on the air, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway, even if he does care. The 28th anniversary of Gabe Henderson's birth. There you go. It's a special day on Monday. And so we'll be able to talk about Cut Down Day as well. We'll be down to the Saints will have their roster. Now, obviously, it'll be a little fluctuating probably going on between Sunday night at 5 p.m. and when they start the season on Sunday, September 13th. But that's okay. They'll be down to the 53-man roster. Good chance. I think there's an excellent chance one of the quarterbacks gets cut. That may be the big news, right? Which quarterback's going to get cut? That's part of the Saints news. The Saints battle. You can take that off the screen now, Gabe. That's part of the Saints battle. Looks like the Rat is going to start. I'm not 100% sure of this, but looks like the Rat's going to start tomorrow night. We'll get to it. You see another QR screen code on the screen, and if you want to get in our Pick'em League, if you're not listening, I'll tell you how to get into it. If you're not watching, excuse me, and you can't shoot your phone at this, boy, that looks like something they gave me at the psychiatrist's office to see if I was a wacko jacko. That's That's got some kind of weird fuzzy pattern going on in there. I'd be scared to shoot my phone at it. But anyway, you know what I mean. If you want to get in our Pick'em League, we have we've been having one going on for, over 10 years. I've been having this thing going on back in my NOLA.com Pick'em when I was handicapping every week. And I had my Pick'em column going on. There's people from all over the place in that thing. But anyway, if you want to join, it's free. It's on CBS. All you do is take your phone, shoot that QR code. It'll take you right into the league. You're able to get in. And if you can't do it that way, or if you listen after the fact, you can't see the QR code, you can email me, jim@jimderry.com. You can find me on X, jimderry @jimderry Jr. All right. Before we get to the rest of the show, I got some more things to talk about, but I want to tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. My yacht just doesn't say. You got to slow down when you get to like those T's and the LY. Privately held business. Just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, someone you know, someone you love, someone you want to just help. They want to be thinking about selling their business. Where do I start? You know what? You reach out to Evangeline's founding partner, Nick Braden. He will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from his office, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Well, we're glad you're asked, but you'll have to wait a little bit. Fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. How about my friend Joe DiStefano? Yes. It's Thursday, but you certainly can check out Level Up Louisiana and my friend Joe.
Louisiana, we're leveling up, and people are taking notice. Our team has grown its sales by 67% since this time last year, but don't worry, we're still searching for ambitious people who want more out of life than the 9-to-5 routine. With Level Up Louisiana, we offer real support, real training, real opportunity, no corporate fluff, no empty promises. You're hungry for growth, tired of ceilings, or simply ready for a change that actually moves your life forward, this might be your moment. This sounds like you? Scan the QR code on the screen or email us at louisiana.division@ushacareers.com. That's louisiana.division@ushacareers.com. You can also call or text Joe DiStefano at 504-234-2132. With offices in Mandeville and Baton Rouge, you build your future with Level Up Louisiana.
Time to get on the show this morning. Before we switch slides and really get into it and start talking Saints this morning, I want to give a tip. I don't wear a cowboy hat because if you saw this, I mean, look at the shape of this head. This hat doesn't work for a cowboy hat. I've tried. I wanted to wear one so many times. I can't wear a cowboy hat and I can't wear boots. It's just not my thing. It wasn't meant to be. Maybe that's just, not who I am. Whatever it is. But I do want to get a tip of the cap, the proverbial cap, to Dolly Parton, as everyone knows, passed away. We were huge fans of Dolly, not necessarily just her music. I mean, I'm not the biggest country music fan in the world. I don't dislike it, and I listen to it every now and then. But just the person. I mean, if you go through and look at Dolly's life and all the things that she's done for the people, the area of East Tennessee and all the kids that live in that area, and just read up on things that Dolly Parton did for her area, just alone makes her just a wonderful human being. And we're gonna miss her. And so we've got the permanent lights outside set to pink for the rest of the week for Dolly. And again, Dattitude, give a Dattitude salute to Dolly Parton. Certainly will be missed by most people. I mean, you got a couple cuckoo birds out there that just. I actually saw. So I'm not going to get into it, but I actually saw some conspiracy theories out there. How do conspiracy theorists, by the way, how do they wake up in the morning and try to think up a new one every day, or do they just search social media? There's conspiracy clicks. I don't know, man. As I said, wacko, jacko. What I'm talking about. All right, let's get into Saints. We are going to switch slides here because I do want to get into the starters mostly sitting Friday. I'm going to get into the comments. So I expect to see in the comments, we've got a lot of them this morning. As I click over, we've got about 10 minutes before Zach comes on. Starters mostly sitting Friday. That is going to be the lead topic of the show for sure. But I'm sure there's somebody in there somewhere who didn't want to talk about more than that for sure. Charles Mangus, R.I.P. to Dolly, of course. Also, Tim Curry. Not Tim Curry. Yeah, Tim Curry. I was not the whole thing of what was the crazy show that I'm drawing a blank now. Oh man, Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's it. That was not my thing back in the day, and I didn't go. My friends were going one Friday night, and I'm not joking. I went to go with them, and I watched about 10 minutes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this ain't for me. So I ended up walking out of the party and hanging out outside until they were all done. We had a good time, but not my thing. I know he's done a lot of other things. My kids were like, who is he? Who was he? I'm like, he was in Home Alone, and then when I told them who they were, oh, yeah, I remember now. But anyway, I know he had a lot of fans. So R.I.P. to him as well. All right, what else we got here? Going to Alvin's here this morning. Good morning. Brian S. Steve, if I can get my mouse to work here this morning. Good morning. Let's see what else we got. UBN's here. Of course he is. Happy early birthday. Thank you, sir. He might be talking about Gabe for all I know. He's already sick of Lane. He hasn't even coached a game yet. I told you, man. I'm not going to go that far because I don't want to piss too many people off on this Thursday morning, but I'm just saying. I mean, some things are worth stirring a hornet's nest for. Are we really wanting to stir a hornet's nest for Daquan Wright and Xavier Harris? I personally don't think so, but if that floats your boat, then sure, whatever. Earl's Picks here. Who dat, baby? He's ready to see. He wants the Saints starters to play a little bit. That's Callie. Good morning, everybody. Feels the same about Lane. Early birthday shout out. Thank you. Katrina. See, you had to bring her up. I have to. Every time I have a birthday, it's also Katrina Day. It is. Come on, man. That's like people having a. Would you rather? I mean, I guess I'd rather have a birthday on Christmas. I mean, at least you're, nobody cares that it's your birthday and Christmas. I don't know. You know what I mean. But I am here for another birthday, so I'm excited. Chad Gage. Now, we know why you think Lane Kiffin's a turd, you ooh-la-la fan. Come on, man. Kyle Sherman, good morning. LSU has become the old Oakland Raiders, putting a chip on every shoulder. You know what, though? And Charles says he loved the old Oakland Raiders. Interestingly enough, I mean, Lane Kiffin, it didn't go well, but he did coach for the Raiders. Just saying. You got to think that he loves all this attitude towards him, right? Josh DeVoy says he'll go out on a limb and say eventually preseason will be a thing of the past with the amount of work that is done. I've been saying that. I don't think preseason is long for this world. I think what's going to happen, I think they're going to switch. John Ganey says last preseason game is meaningful and entertaining as Jim Derry poetry reading. Maybe I should start a new podcast, new YouTube page. Reading poetry with Yaddy Yatterson. That would be pretty fun. I might do that. John, you just gave me a good idea. Jerry, what's going on this morning? Look, I keep telling y'all, I think the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have the 18-game season. I don't think it's going to be next year. It might not be 28, but I think before the end of the decade, we're going to have the 18-game season. When they do that, at the bare minimum, they get rid of one preseason game and maybe two. And at some point in the semi-near future, no more preseason. They're going to find a way to make money without doing preseason games. Just that. Adam says he agrees with what I said earlier. Don't think you ignore injuries anymore. They have gotten so bad. It's not a lot of stars with pretty much zero depth now. I hate to tell you this, Adam, but they didn't really have depth before either. Just saying. I mean, I did this last week, so I'm not going to do it again. But every team has their share of injuries. The difference is the Saints didn't have hardly any last year. They were super lucky. I mean, like super lucky to go through not only the preseason, but to go through the regular season without any, I can't say any because they did have a few, but without a ton of injury. I mean, Eric McCoy was gone for most of the season. Just saying. You go through every team and you're going to see I'd say there are probably 10 to 12 teams that are in the same boat as the Saints right now, and there are about probably 4 to 6 more that are close. You know? Oh, Gabe, I forgot to bring this up. R.I.P. to the beloved Pro Bowl. You want to talk about, and he's being facetious, and I won't be. They should have got rid of that stupid crap years ago. When you keep trying to change the format of something to get people to watch, time to get rid of it. And they've been trying to. How many times did they change the format of the Pro Bowl over the course of the last 10 years? Look, some people, I'm ready. The people who aren't Saints fans are going to hate when I say this, but I don't care. When Shedeur Sanders makes a Pro Bowl, that's when it's time to end the thing, okay? Even if you're a Shedeur Sanders fan, if you're semi-realistic with yourself, then you realize that he shouldn't have made the Pro Bowl. But that's where it goes. They were down to, they had lost so many players, nobody wants to play it anymore. Good riddance. Silver Gator says sitting starters is a good move. So far, Charles Menga says let him sit. What else we got? Yeah, flag football game is going. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves. What else we got here? Oh, Dylan Smith's here. Good morning. Member Dylan Smith. A Dat family member. Good morning. Hope everybody has a great day. Me too. Oh, yeah, this, we'll probably talk about this a little bit. It was cool seeing there were 8,000 fans there at Tulane last night. 8,000 fans at Yulman Stadium. How about that? 8,000. It's pretty impressive. Says it was cool seeing Shough toss passes to fans at Yulman. Look. Also, Ryan Wright, the punter, the Saints punter, the newest punter. Remember, he is a former Tulane Green Wave punter. He said it was really cool to be out there. Tatters, where you been, Tatters? I haven't seen you in a little while. Glad you're here this morning. Let's see. John says Detroit. I have not seen. Gabe, look that up for me. I think it's still -7. He says Detroit -6.5 is a mortal lock for week 1. Will be 8 or 9 by kickoff. I disagree. I don't think it will be 8 or 9 by kickoff. We'll see. But the last I saw, it has not changed. And I did not look this morning, so it could have changed in the last. I mean, I don't know why it would go that way. -7 at DraftKings, which is what we've been using. It's pretty much been constant. It started at 7.5 when it first came out. I think it was 7, maybe or maybe not. But anyway, I know this. It has not gone below 7, and it hasn't hardly moved at all. I don't expect it to move much. Look, when we talk about lines, and again, I'm not going to get into too much about lines right now on August the 27th. This is something we'll talk about more in a couple weeks when we're getting ready for the regular season. But a refresher course, that number 7 is a big deal. 6.5 is a big deal. 7.5 is a big deal. 8, not that big of a deal anymore. Not anymore, but 8's not that big of a deal. 9 is certainly not that big of a deal. You could see movement between 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5. That's not that big of a deal. But to go between 6.5 and 7.5 is. And so it would take something drastic for this line to move, to me, to even 7.5. It would take like Tyler Shough getting hurt, or Chen not playing, or maybe Olave. By the way, Olave had a little scare in practice. We'll get to that in a little bit. Zach coming on the show in just a few moments. But so, John, I don't agree. As someone who's done this for a while and been in sports betting for a while, and if you want to say lock, okay, I got somebody else. There'll be others who say it's lock the other way. You can't. Your mind shouldn't be changed by anything that's happened in the preseason. All those lovers and the pie in the sky, and they're going to win 10 games, and I know they're still out there. But if you thought the Saints were going to be really good 3 weeks ago, and you've changed your mind now because of what you've seen in the preseason, then you're kind of silly. Gabe says the only thing that would move the line by 2 points is something like a Shough injury. Yeah, I mean, even Chen getting hurt wouldn't move the line 2 points. Chen getting hurt would probably move it from 7 to, it would certainly probably go to 7.5. I don't know if it would go past that or not. We'll see. Anyway, you got to remember, there's a big difference when you talk about the world of betting between 7.5 and 8. Certainly between 7 and 8. Brian S. Steve says, does the whole LSU versus the SEC actually impact Will Wade more? I don't think so. Not sure the new rule includes all professional leagues. I don't know. I'll ask Zach in just a minute. I think it's just the NFL, but I don't think it's going to matter. You know what I mean? What else we got going on? All right, Zach's in the green room. I'm going to get to him in just a moment. Anybody I missed? It is not my 60th. Nice try, though. Lee Saint. Happy Who Dat birthday. That's right, baby. It's not my 60th. Let's just say that when I was born, the Saints already existed. Just barely, but they existed. Let's say thank you, everyone, for all the birthday wishes. I appreciate it very much. Adam says he thinks that Kellen is smart not to play starters. Injuries have left no option. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it. He's doing the wrong thing to not play starters. But I think to say that they don't have any options, that's silly. You can't say that. You can say whatever you want. Bet365 at 6.5. We use DraftKings here, John. Just FYI. To be consistent, and unless a book wants to sponsor the show, and then we'll change what we use. But we like consistency on the show. So anytime you see a line, unless I specifically say otherwise, it is a line from DraftKings. All right, St. Louis, Best Buy, who dat? Good morning. You retired on Katrina Day. That's how old you are. Wow. Did you retire at 24 years old? That's pretty cool. Tip of the cap. All right, let's bring him in. Here he is, the man, the myth, the legend. Zach Ewing is with us this morning. What is that cap? What's you got going on up there? What is it? Oh, that's a Zephyr. Oh, no, come on, man. You trying to scare me this morning? That was literally the worst name, and that was the worst name for a franchise in maybe sports history.
Jim, are you telling me you are anti-king cake baby?
Oh, it's fine if it's in my king cake.
I'm not sure if we can continue this. The king cake baby is one of the greatest things in professional sports history.
What are you talking about?
It's amazing.
The thing is, like, scares children.
Look at that thing. New Orleans, though.
They tried to have it at the Pelicans game, and I'm telling you, I had to turn away. It's like the Burger King. The Burger King scares people. Okay,
I agree with that one, but the
Burger King and the baby cake, they're both the king cake baby are both in the same book for me. They need to be banned from society.
Hashtag KCB for life, baby. Give me the king cake baby.
That's disgusting, man.
One of my life goals is to give the king cake baby a big hug.
If I didn't think I would get in trouble, and I'd punch that thing right in his nose. I was going to say, if I didn't think I was going to get in trouble. All right, let's get. People don't want to hear about king cake babies and all. It's August. Too hot to talk about king cakes. That's awful, man. Now, but I shouldn't say that because now you're going to wear it all the time. All right, let's get into it this morning and talk about. I want to start with LSU in just a moment, but first I want to give you some love and all the great stuff going on at NOAA.com. Look, I love the camp update every day. That's my favorite thing. That's what I read when I get up in the morning. If I didn't get a chance to read it in the afternoon when they had morning practice or whatever, obviously last night practiced at Tulane, wrapping up camp. Our guys were there. But I'm assuming this is going to continue even though camp's over. They're going to be doing it throughout the rest of the quote-unquote preseason until the regular season begins.
Well, unfortunately, I think last night was the last practice at which our reporters get any sort of length to watch.
Oh, okay.
So there may be some observations, but it'll mostly just be who was there and who wasn't there, because
God forbid we tell anybody.
To pull the curtain back, we do get to view some practice during the regular season, but it's like 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of practice, and it's just stretches and maybe a couple of individual drills. So we'll get to see. Okay, was this guy out there trotting around? Is he probably going to play? Versus was he on the sideline in street clothes? But
Gotcha.
You're not going to get the detailed updates that we've had during camp, unfortunately.
Brian Cavitt's here. He says, sitting in a doctor's office prepping for surgery next week. We absolutely wish you luck in your recovery. It's going to be a rough one. Well, please let us know what's going on. We would certainly be thinking about you and watching for you to come back. Randall Ginn He should know. He's a coach. He's been a coach most of his life. Not enough real speed contact before the season these days. No 3-a-days. Well, they don't have to have 3-a-days, Randall. Come on, man. You're showing your age, buddy. Nobody does that anymore, nor should they. I'm not for 3-a-days. No starters in preseason, soft league compared to back in the day. That's even further than I would go.
Here's the thing, and this to me, this expands or extends into the conversation about pitchers in baseball as well.
Oh, now you're gonna rile me up. Now you're gonna press my buttons.
Well, because I'm getting older too, Jim. I remember when pitchers went 100, 120 pitches, and if you were pitching effectively, you just kept going.
How about 140?
It's the max effort theorem. Okay, let's call it that. Pitchers are going max effort on every single pitch. They didn't used to do that. Now they have to get hitters out. In football, these guys are bigger, faster, stronger. They hit each other harder. Their hamstrings or whatever other muscle group are being put under more stress with every step. And in some cases, the bodies are built up to deal with that. In some cases, they're not.
I agree with that.
I think to say, oh, they're soft is not. You're just being myopic. You're not thinking about the big picture here. Now, are some guys soft compared to what they used to be when guys would play with a bloodied mouth and they'd have a concussion and not know it? I mean, I guess you could call that soft. I'd call it smart if you know you're hurt not to play. But I just don't buy that this whole generation is like suddenly soft, because what's going to happen is my generation's going to get old and we're going to think the world is soft, and then the current youth is going to get old and they're going to think the youth, and this cycles through. Just like your grandparents probably thought your generation was soft.
Probably.
Let's pump the brakes on this.
We walked to school back and forth uphill both ways, 7 miles in the snow, even though it doesn't snow in New Orleans. Okay, yeah. Anyway, look, here's my thing, and I've talked about this several times over the past few weeks, is the difference between today and probably when I was growing up, especially in baseball. Nobody played baseball 12 months a year when I was growing up. Nobody played football 12 months a year. Nobody just played football. I can't say nobody, but hardly anyone just played football or just played baseball. And the way that they worked out then was different than the way they work out now. And now it's like they're wound too tight almost. And are they better athletes in the grand scheme of things? Probably. Can somebody throw a fastball 103 miles an hour, whereas before if somebody threw 95 it was like, wow? Of course. But that you keep winding that muscle that tight, it's going to pop at some point. And to me, that's kind of where I think we are. And it's not just baseball. I think it's the same in football. And I think that's why there's so many injuries. And I think that you need to take more time off. So whereas they did 3-a-days back in the day and then 2-a-days back in the day, they also took like 3 months off where they just didn't do anything and went and smoked cigarettes and drank booze and, ate ribs and did whatever the hell they want. And some of them actually still do that probably. But so I think that's the difference. They just took a lot more time off over the course of time, and now they don't really do that. Football has become almost a year-round thing.
I think the other thing is the media cycle feeds into this too, because we're hearing about every little injury update every day. So tweaked his hamstring and missed practice. You didn't hear about that. Even 20 years ago, you didn't necessarily hear about that. 40 years ago, you definitely didn't. And so we weren't even aware of the bumps and bruises that these guys had, and if they had some sort of issue like Tua, where they got messed up and they couldn't play anymore, you just never heard from them again. And
I was supposed to get to Tua. I guess I'll save that. I
couldn't think of it. I didn't want to say Olave, but I mean, or even Jordan Tyson, where the guy just keeps missing games because he's popping his hamstring. A lot of that has to do with the kinetic movements. I think he needs to be taught a better way to move. Just different ways to let his weight hit his feet and things like that. I'm sure the Saints are looking at this stuff.
Who knew this show was going to devolve into sports science? Maybe that
you have 22 players missing practice with injury. I guess it's
Saints. It's not just the Saints, though. I mean, like I said, it's definitely. I think you see this. I don't want to say you see it more every year, but it just seems to me that when you go through, I've kind of gone through a lot of the other teams. I would say there are probably 10 to 12 teams in the Saints having the same issues as the Saints, And then there are probably 4 or 5 that are close, and then you got the other half of the league that's okay. They're not that bad, but the big difference is the Saints went relatively unscathed last year, except for Eric McCoy. And you think about that, they were 4th best in the league as far as injuries go. They had the 4th least amount of injuries, and then this year it's starting off bad. So I mean, yeah, it's just a rough year.
I did see, and I don't remember the exact way they calculated this, but how many players had missed some significant period with injury. And the 49ers, #substation, were number 1 with a bullet. They were like 25
They're
players.
in bad shape.
And the Saints were number 2. Now they were 16 or 17 or so. They were a distant number 2, but they were like they were definitely above average for the number of injuries they've had thus far.
Yeah, I mean that shouldn't scare you off though of the starters thing. We're going to get into that in a minute. Again, I kind of want to start with LSU this morning. We've already jumped into Saints. We're going to come back to Saints, but I want to get into LSU. But first, $100 super chat. I'm going to share this with Gabe. Happy birthday to us. He's got a question. If drugs are bad, how in the hell is Keith Richards and Willie Nelson outlasted Dolly Parton? That's the question. That's almost as good as the Evangeline Securities question, but go ahead, Zach. You got an answer for everything. How the hell do you answer that?
I'm bummed about Dolly. I saw a feed of Dolly covering Stairway to Heaven this morning, and it made my morning. It was amazing. Just in her style.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I never saw that
I'll
one.
send it to you. It's amazing.
Please. I would love to see
I put it on my Facebook page.
Okay. I have not seen that. All right, let's switch slides here because I do want to get in LSU, and we haven't done nearly enough LSU stuff as we get forward here. And my question, and I saw that you guys did an LSU Insider show on this. Will there be a legal battle versus the SEC, LSU versus the SEC? I mean, does LSU really want to go that far? I mean, I know it wouldn't just be about the Daquan Wright and the Xavier Harrises of the world. However, that it would be they're worried about what might happen in the future. But is LSU that interested, that tied into trying to put up a fight to keep these guys on their roster?
I guess we'll see. I think the people who are the most interested in it are those who bill hourly, if you know what I mean.
For sure. No doubt about that.
So I think the legal fight will.
Sorry, lawyers and attorneys out there watching the show.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I know some lawyers and I'm friends with some lawyers. If you don't want a bad rap, quit doing this crap. It's. I've never seen. First of all, just big picture. Have you ever seen, in your 36 years on the New Orleans sports media scene?
Paying attention.
You must have started around age 40. I don't know.
Wow.
At a late start.
Man, that's ugly, man. That's a shot across the bow,
I had to get a
man.
birthday jab in there. Have you ever seen in all of your years anything like this where we are approaching football season and LSU's got a just enormous game with Clemson in 9 days? I mean, we're talking, like, I understand it doesn't feel as big as the Clemson game last year, but it's a game LSU cannot lose. And it's definitely a game they could lose if they don't play well. Clemson's good enough to come in here and beat you if you're not playing well. It is a huge game. And yet no one's even talking about it because we've got all of this stuff about Daquan Wright and Xavier Harris and Jack Pyburn and all these guys. Like, it's all anybody is talking about. And it's crazy to me that we still haven't gotten to the point where we can focus on the football. And I know once it starts, that's why football is almost unbeatable as far as this stuff goes, because once the games start, that's all anybody will care about, and we'll forget about all this. But to your point, like, is Xavier Harris making the difference between LSU making the college football playoff or not?
No.
I don't think so. One of the reasons the Saints let him go so early is because he was injured, and he was not, from what I understand, he was not really even in practice shape. So I don't think he got himself in practice shape in 2 weeks, and it's going to suddenly, maybe he could play a few snaps against Clemson, but like, it's going to take time. Daquan Wright is certainly not playing over Trey Green. So what is the motivation here other than to just, like, it's almost
what it is? It's Lane wanting to do this to the NCAA. And that to me, that's the motivation. Lane wanting to stick it to whoever he can stick it to. His ego is way bigger than, yours, mine, UBN's, Gabe's all put together. And that's saying something, because Lord knows that, I've already been told this week how arrogant I am. So I'm just saying, I mean, Lane is bigger than this whole show put together.
And as far as whether they will fight the SEC on it, I'm starting to think that LSU will back down at some point. I'm actually more interested to see what Will Wade will do.
That actually was a question earlier before you came on. Someone was asking, will this linger into Will Wade? Does this have any effect on Will Wade?
Well, I think R.J. Lewis will have a much bigger impact on LSU's basketball team than any of these guys will have on LSU's football team. I don't know that for sure. Maybe Daquan Wright comes in here and Trey'Dez Green gets hurt, and so Daquan Wright becomes, a huge part of the story. It could happen, but R.J. Lewis was the Big East Player of the Year 2 seasons ago, and he's like a key cog for this year in LSU men's basketball. So now he played in the NBA Summer League. The SEC specifically mentions the NBA and the Summer League as part of this rule. It's not just the NFL, it is basketball also. Okay? So RJ Lewis is right in the crosshairs of this, and I for myself believe this is actually a different situation. I have some sympathy for Daquan Wright. Daquan Wright, the way he understood it, he was out of eligibility. Okay? And so he moved on to the NFL basically because he had to. He got to Eagles camp, they cut him. He got to Browns camp, they cut him. And now he sees this loophole, and he talks to a lawyer or his agent who can say, hey, you can come back to LSU and play another year, make a little money, and try again. Why wouldn't he do that? He didn't know he had that option in January. So to me, I have some sympathy for him. Like, well, maybe he should be able to play. R.J. Lewis is a different story. R.J. Lewis left school early. He's played professionally for more than a year. Like, this guy should not be coming back to college sports, in my opinion. I
hear you, but to me, you got to put your foot down somewhere. I'm glad to see the SEC is stepping up and doing this. And to me, I just got to wonder, what is LSU's impetus, I guess, to go forward with this? To me, this is a perfect spot for them to put their foot down, and they probably didn't love it anyway. And here's a chance for them to say, you know what? We're just not going to mess with this. Sorry, Lane. Sorry, Will. But here's a chance for us to get out of this. And I think there's a better chance that they just say, you know what? It's not worth the trouble, and say, we're not going to fight this.
Does that sound like Jeff Landry to you?
Doesn't sound like Jeff Landry, but I think it's.
I think Jeff Landry's got a whole lot of influence.
Don't make me start talking about politics, because I'll lose some people.
This isn't even politics. This is just who he is as a person. He is gonna fight.
Yeah.
And I just,
he can fight all he wants, but I don't know that the LSU people are going to get themselves involved in this. I just think that there's somewhere you got to draw a line. To me, this seems like a line. Everything I read, and again, this is interpretation. I don't know any more than anybody else, but I just don't think it's a fight that LSU is going to win, because the NCAA doesn't want any part of it, because they are, I don't even know how to put it without being just completely rude. The NCAA is like, they just driven off. They're a bunch of pansy asses, I guess.
They don't control, for one thing, they don't control the postseason in college football. So any punishment they put in would have no teeth. Yeah. Now, speaking of things we have up on the NOLA.com website and the Advocate.com website, Reed Darcy wrote a really good explainer. He talked to some lawyers about why the SEC rule is different than the NCAA rule and why it may stand up in court. And then there's a couple of legal experts who kind of disagree and say, well, it depends on this. And one thing is, if every single conference puts the rule in place, then that is actually could cause legal problems, because in the court, from what I understand, if these players do have some other option, like let's say the American Conference says, hey, come on down, come play at Tulane. Then if they have that option, then the courts can't go to the SEC and Big Ten and say you can't have that rule, because you're giving these guys no option to follow this other court order. But if there are some conferences that allow it, then it may be, strangely enough, it may be better for the SEC and Big Ten for their rules to hang up in court. But it's worth reading. Reed's a young guy, fantastic reporter, though.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome.
Talk to these legal experts. And then Koki actually talked to Daquan Wright about his perspective and his situation, and so that story's up there too.
To show you how old I am, Reed's dad, Dwayne, and I graduated the same year together. We graduated from Archbishop Shough the same year. Just goes to show you how old I am. Goated VTX says, arrogant Lane Kiffin is back. The one that got fired twice. He checked himself a little in his last few stops, but the dark side, the evil Lane Kiffin is back.
Covered Lane Kiffin at USC briefly. I wasn't really covering the whole team, but Cody Kessler was the quarterback, and he was a local kid for us, so I would go down and cover him, and found out, at 5 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, the night he had been fired on the tarmac. So Lane has produced drama in my life going way back.
And he will continue to produce more, I'm sure. A little bit off the topic, but on LSU, John Gainey wants to know, is Sam Levitt having issues with post-operative arthritis from his Lisfranc surgery? Says he may not be able to handle long outings for the Tigers. I haven't heard that. If anything, I've heard the opposite. I've heard that he's dealing with his post-operative issues very well, and that he's ahead of schedule.
I had not heard that either. Unfortunately, we don't really know, because unlike in the NFL, there is nothing mandating any sort of media access to practice. And so I'm not going to come on here and complain about it, because every school does it. But
right.
The fact of the matter is, what we've seen from Sam Levitt is very limited outside of social media videos that LSU chooses to post in-house. And he looks fine in those, but to the commenter's point, maybe he is good for, a few snaps, and then it starts to hurt him. I could be. I don't have any reason to believe that, but it could be.
By the way, John also says, if that king cake baby knocked on his door, his shotgun would be emptied.
King cake baby, kill you with love. Come get my
kill you with love.
Smile at you. You can't hurt that king cake baby.
No, you can't. By the way, before we move on, LSU, I found it interesting that the line has been hovering. It started at 10.5. It dropped to 9.5 and was there for a couple of weeks. And then this morning when I looked, it was actually 10.5 again. So people are betting on LSU. It's funny how it's just jumping right over the 10. Nobody does numbers, and they all have to add the half in there. It used to be where you could find 10 or 7 or, also, although the Saints are at 7 right now, but with Detroit. But I just find it funny they went from 9.5 back to 10.5 to 9.5 back to 10.5 instead of settling in on 10. So anyway, people are betting on the Tigers, I guess.
Yeah, House doesn't want to push, right? So they got to have their hook.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get back into the Saints here. Charles, I'm not sure where that comment went. Anyway, you're talking about, where was it? I missed it, but Charles Mangus wants to know why the San Francisco 49ers are called the San Francisco 49ers if they're in Santa Clara. Well, if we started going by wherever teams played, there'd be a bunch of. Do you want to call the Giants and Jets the East Rutherford Giants or the New Jersey Jets? No. They're just because they don't play in that specific town. Come on. Yeah, or like the Cupid baby.
The Arlington Cowboys.
The Arlington Cowboys, exactly.
To be the Indiana Bears.
Exactly. Come on. They're not going to do that. Is Chavez Ravine actually in the city of Los Angeles? I don't know. It is. What about the Los Angeles Angels? Don't they play in Anaheim?
They play in Anaheim. To me, that's one that's like that's not LA. Come on.
The Gary, Indiana Bears, like the Bad News Bears. Anyway, all right, back to the Saints here. Starters mostly sitting. The question we asked earlier, and I'll ask you the same question. Where do you sit as far as, and I'm on the fence because I've always been one to preach about preseason doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and it really doesn't. So the most important thing about preseason is not to get players hurt. Although, I will say, to get some kind of continuity, you would think with 3 preseason games, I would like to see the starters at some point, and now there's only one left, play at least a series or 2 together in a real game setting and not just a scrimmage. So I guess that bothers me a little bit, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm really on the fence with this. And where do you sit with the starters not playing at all during the preseason?
It bothers me mostly from the standpoint that I find the preseason to be terribly mundane and boring.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see the starters play a quarter just so it would be something different. But that's selfish. And outside of that, I don't think it matters that much. I think you could make an argument for maybe the rookies Like, hey, get out there and feel what it's like to go, to be introduced in an NFL game and stand on the sideline and, trot in and be under the lights and things like that. Like, I think you could make an argument for that, but it's not like, like Christian Miller played at Georgia. It's not like he's not been under bright lights.
Right.
I tend to think that part of it is overrated. And when if they do play, they're going to play for like 2 series and then sit the rest of the game. Are you really gaining anything?
I guess that's true.
I don't think it's a big deal either way. I will say, I think it is a decision point for Kellen Moore and his staff that we will have a pretty clear grade on. When they kick off in Detroit in 2.5 weeks, and are they ready to go? And if they're ready to go, then it's like, well, hey, why do we need the preseason? If they're not ready to go and they start slow and you've got all these pre-snap penalties that have plagued them so much, then maybe it was like, well, shoot, maybe they should have gotten out there a little bit in one of these preseason games.
It's just interesting to me, especially this year, and I hear you, what do you actually get by if they play 2 series? I mean, does that give them any more advantage than if they play, So I understand that, but to me, the fact that you're going on the road to play at Detroit, at Baltimore, maybe your 2 toughest games right off the bat, I would just like to see some kind of continuity, maybe even for a whole half of them playing together in a real game situation. I know they try to make the scrimmages now as close to a game situation as possible, and there's a 2-week gap now between then the preseason and the regular season, so it's not like playing a first half would give you continuity, I guess, per se. But it just seems weird to me that I wish that you either get rid of this crap or play some. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, you just get rid. The league is telling you what they want.
Yeah.
The coaches and players are telling you what they want. They don't want preseason. Maybe a game, maybe one game to let some backups play. If you have a rookie quarterback, you want to get his feet wet. You can put him in there for a half. You can some of the final 53 position battles. Okay, let's have a game. The rest of it, let's have these joint practices, which is the way it's going anyway, so that it's a more controlled environment. And then let's move on to the regular season. I think we're probably headed to 2 preseason games. I don't know if it'll go down to 1, but
Mark Satanovich is semi-trolling here when he says the Rats showed in practice this week he understands Kellen Moore's playbook so well that he's actually ahead of. I mean, putting the word "actually" in there is kind of silly because, I mean, he was the favorite to win the QB2 job from the get-go. But where do you stand on Rat versus Zach Wilson in the QB2 race? I will say this, from everything that I've been looking through, including our stuff at NOLA.com, it does appear as if the Rats probably got the best chance to start the final preseason game. Does that mean that he's got a lead at QB2?
I think so, just because probably if it's, tie goes to the incumbent and he had the job coming in, I don't think, Uncle Big Nick, cover your ears, but I think Jimmy G's probably better than either of these clowns at this point.
Well, there's no doubt.
I hate to call them clowns because I know that they're working
hard. There's no question Jimmy G's better than these dudes.
I understand that every team is going to suffer if your starting quarterback goes down. There's not a team in the NFL that's not true for, except for maybe the Browns where they're, 50-50, and the Raiders where you're like, okay, well, Cousins got hurt, we're going to throw Mendoza in there a little early. There's a couple teams where you go, no big deal. Like the Saints last year, I don't think it would have been a big deal because you just, okay, it's Shough time. But at most of the teams, yes, you're going to be significantly hurt if your starter goes out. To me, the Saints, and this depends on how high your opinion of Tyler Shough is, but even if it's just hey, let's wait and see, he might just be an average quarterback, and maybe he's still even a below average quarterback, he's at least a viable NFL starter.
Yeah, I think he's
Rattler
proven
and
that.
Wilson, I'm sorry, but from everything I've seen, you just, and combined with their regular season performances in the past, they're not starting caliber quarterbacks. And the Saints don't have the talent or the depth on the rest of their roster to put a guy like that at quarterback and expect to win hardly anything.
Yeah,
maybe you get lucky and win a game. You have a bunch of turnovers or something. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they are just so far below what my standard would be for my contingency plan. Jeff Duncan brought this up on our Saints Insider on Tuesday. Stetson Bennett on Saturday. Nobody thinks anything of Stetson Bennett. He's just a backup guy. He went 19 of 31 for 181 yards and added 2 rushing touchdowns. If Spencer Rattler had gone 19 of 31 for 181 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns, we'd be like crowning him the greatest backup in the league. Saints fans would be going crazy over that.
Yeah, for sure.
And Stetson Bennett did it. Like, and these guys can't hold a candle to that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Bill says he's been watching Rattler for 2 years and it's the same old things. Please just keep Wilson. I mean, look, I don't care. I got to be honest. I was probably thinking that, and I told, Gabe and I talked about this like in June. I mean, when you brought in a Zach Wilson, to me, they weren't bringing a Zach Wilson in. It at the bare minimum, it shows where the Saints, what the Saints think about Spencer Rattler. Because to me, there's absolutely no reason at all to bring in Zach Wilson unless you just, if you felt like Spencer Rattler was your number 2 and he was your solid number 2, you're not bringing in Zach Wilson. You're just not going to do it. But going through all this, Zach Wilson hasn't showed me that he's better than Spencer Rattler. And yeah, if you're a Saints fan and you've seen Spencer Rattler, then you know that he's not an NFL starting quarterback. But you haven't paid enough attention to Zach Wilson because he's been the same thing elsewhere. So, I mean, I don't really think it matters. And when I say it doesn't matter, that probably leans to Rattler being the favorite because he's been in the system. I would actually, if they're what and what, I'm probably going to take Rattler because you might as well stick with the guy that knows your system and has been in it.
And he's under contract for an extra year. I mean,
exactly.
There's some advantages to that. I'm still, on Sunday when rosters get cut down all over the league, does somebody try to sneak a quarterback on the practice squad that the Saints say, oh, hey, Andy Dalton in Philadelphia, let's,
possibly.
They're going to try to, old friend Andy Dalton maybe comes down. Or I think Tanner McKee is the other backup there. Probably not both. Well, maybe they. Maybe
what about the Atlanta dude? What's his name? Strand?
Yeah.
Jack Strand or whatever? Is that his name?
I don't remember. To be honest with you, I can't.
Jack Strand. Gabe shaking his head. Yeah.
Okay. All the situations, but there's also.
I mean, are they going to keep 3 quarterbacks on their 53 man? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at the Rams.
I think it's possible that the Saints make a move. Yeah, for sure.
The Rams are going to keep Ty Simpson. So are they going to also keep Stetson Bennett on the active roster?
Gabe thinks about Stetson Bennett almost the same as he thinks about Zach Wilson.
I'm not saying any of these guys.
I thought you hated Stetson Bennett.
But I do think that's an area where the Saints, like, we can talk about what last Saturday's, preseason laying of an egg meant.
Yeah.
I don't think it means much in terms of the result, but it did highlight some individual areas that I think it's fair to be concerned about, and the biggest one is backup quarterback.
I think that overall, if you look at just the two of them, if I were the one choosing, okay, which I obviously am not, if I were the one choosing, I would probably go to Zach Wilson because I don't think. I get it. Zach Wilson stunk, whatever, however many games he's played doesn't matter.
He's better than Rattler, though. His record's much better than Rattler.
His record is definitely better than Rattler. And I just think that, again, in the grand scheme of it, it doesn't matter. If I wake up or if we find out Sunday night that Spencer Rattler won the job and they cut Zach Wilson, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a dumb move. No, I'm not going to say that. I just think I do semi-agree with the last comment. There's a couple comments that I like them. I think Rocky's saying it. Time to pull the Rattler plug anyway. Wilson probably isn't the answer, but the same old thing. I mean, to me, that pick 6 was kind of like, to me, the final nail, at least from the way, if I were banging the nail, that would have been the final one for me. I mean, he drives them all the way down the field and then he throws a pick 6. Again, Wilson is capable of doing the same thing. I get it. But to me, Rattler is not developed at all. And so if I were making the decision, that's the one that I would probably make. But again, I don't feel strongly enough about it to say, oh, they're making a huge mistake if they don't go that way.
The only thing I'm confident in saying is that if Tyler Shough misses any lengthy period of time, the Saints are in deep trouble.
Yeah,
I have no confidence in either one.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and like I say, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. Collins Bean, glad you made it to the show. It was for the live portion. So hot in Texas, he says he needs air conditioning for his Kubota. By the way, Dattitude Podcast, the official podcast of mower drivers everywhere. Hope the Saints offense starts off this season hot. We'll see. They're going up against two interesting teams this morning. Father Steve is here. Good morning. What do y'all think our record will be in the division this year? If we could sweep the Falcons this year as a win. Gonna get there. We're about to get to our AFC South and NFC South picks. I didn't ask you, do you have to be off by a certain time? Do I need to rush?
No, not until like 11.
Oh, yeah. Well, long before that.
Oh, come on. You and me can talk, man.
All right. Yeah, well, that's no doubt about that. Edwin Durab, glad you joined the show. Glad you're here. All right. I am going to come back to Saints before to close up the show, but I do want to get rolling here this morning. And this weather was not. But was it bad in Livingston?
Oh, it poured. I woke up a couple times in the middle of the night to just absolute torrential rain.
It was horrendous. They called. I had to. While I was getting ready for the show this morning, I had a causeway closure I had to write about. Anthony Eason, I'll put this up there. How has Shough looked in the preseason? Haven't had a chance to watch 1 minute. Well, he hasn't played in the preseason, but how would the Saints insider say he's done in the scrimmage portions and what they've seen?
He's been mostly impressive. He's one of those guys who just feels like a gamer. The first week, 10 days of training camp, he looked a little out of sync, a little rusty maybe. You know, he's kind of missing some throws. His completion percentage wasn't what you would want. But he got going a little bit more as we got into the joint practice portion. He was, by most accounts, impressive against both the Jaguars and the Cowboys. Maybe a little bit less against the Rams, but he made some plays against a good defense. And then the Saints had that practice at Tulane last night, and he looked really good. He had three touchdowns on 3 consecutive snaps in a red zone drill to, I believe it was Noah Fant, Chris Olave, and Devon Vele. So that's music to a lot of people's ears, I'm sure. I think he's just kind of a gamer. I think he'll get out there, and he's going to play better than he practices necessarily. And if, again, the flip side of the Saints are in trouble if he stays healthy, any upside the Saints have, and I know we're about to talk NFC South, like to me, if they're going to go win 9, 10, 11 games, it's because Tyler Shough is just that guy.
There's no doubt about it.
You know, maybe he is. I'm not ready to completely say that yet, but I think it's definitely possible.
Hart, you know, I saw this earlier while we're doing the show. It happened while we're doing the show. At least the announcement did. I don't know who this is. Do you know Peter Cullen? R.I.P. to Peter Cullen, the OG voice of Optimus Prime. I don't.
Name somewhat familiar. They go in threes, man. We lost Dolly and then Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yeah. So they were all over the. If I make it to 80, which according to you, Zach, is coming next year's birthday. Yeah. You know, if I make it to 80, that means I would kick the coverage. I thumbs up, and so you know my kids, my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, the other day when I was telling her, you know, where I am age-wise, relative. We were talking about Dolly and how I'm not that far in the grand. She started tearing up. Started thinking like, you know, I mean, you get old, man. It is what it is.
Keep yourself healthy, brother.
Before we move on, Sean, welcome to the show. Glad you're here this morning. Kellen Moore just bringing college football concept to the pros. Preseason is going away soon. Look, I've said it before. I said it earlier in the show. I'll say it again. I think within the next 5 to 7 years, there will be no preseason. And at the bare minimum, as soon as they go to 18, it's going to be, you know, as soon as we go to 18 games, at the bare minimum, it'll be 2 preseason games and maybe 1. But that'll be happening soon. All right, moving on here because I want to get started with our picks segment, and I'm going to start with the AFC South. We're doing AFC South and NFC South, so stick around for those NFC South predictions, and you can all join in the fun and give us your predictions as we go along here. But AFC South, we're going to start off with Zach. He's got them in this order: the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's got third, and the Tennessee Titans. He's got coming in and at the bottom, bringing up the rear of the AFC South. You got over 9.5 wins for the Texans, over 7.5 for the Colts, under 8.5 for the Jaguars, and the under 6.5 for the Titans. Explain yourself, Zach Ewing.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the top 3 finish in any order. I actually picked Jacksonville to win this division last year. It's one of the upset picks that I got right. So I'm just kind of, you know, you play the yo-yo in the NFL a little bit, where if a team plays above its head a little bit, a lot of times they play below their level a little the next year. It can be hard to maintain that through a season. Jaguars lost a few pieces here and there. I do like Liam Cohen. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Jacksonville was better than that, but had to kind of pick somebody to drop. I think the Colts are probably the most kind of steady Eddie team. Like I think they're going to finish between 7 and 10 wins. I don't think their floor is much lower than that. I don't think their ceiling is much higher than that. Ultimately, I think they go either 8-9 or probably 9-8 if Daniel Jones stays healthy. They, people forget how good they were when he was in there.
I struggled with them.
Yeah. And by the end of the year, I think they were one of those teams that's like, look, we're just on to next year. We know we're done. We're not going anywhere in the playoffs anyway. So I like the Colts to bounce back a little bit. Ultimately, I like Houston. I think that defense is just, top 3, maybe the best defense in the NFL. But I would certainly put them up there with the Rams and Broncos as top 3. And I think that just carries the day in a division like that. That's the elite unit here. Obviously, would love to have more consistencies from Stroud. But when you look at the other quarterbacks in this division, you're kind of like, well, who's better than him? Maybe
Right.
Lawrence is slightly better than him, but I don't think Stroud's like out of his league here.
No, I hear you, and I kind of struggled with this division. It definitely was not the easiest one, but I don't like the way necessarily that the Texans' schedule starts, opening up against Buffalo, Cincinnati before Joe Burrow gets hurt. At Indy, I do like that 3 of their first 4 games are at home. That does help them. They play Dallas at home, and then it opens up a little bit, gets a little bit easier. Got Tennessee, Jacksonville. We'll see Giants, but they have a stretch that really is interesting. The last week of November through Christmas Eve, they play, let's see, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Washington could be improved, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia, and then Green Bay, the first game in January. So they've got an interesting stretch there. But so I went this way. I think I can't find anyone who's not predicting the Texans to win the division. And you know me, I like Buck and Trent. I don't think there's enough. I think Liam Cohen, Duval. I think Liam Cohen is going to have this team ready. I'm not the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan in the world, and I do think losing Etienne hurts them. But I do like where the Jaguars are as far as their transition. I think they could be a 10 or 11 win team this year. I certainly like the over, even if they don't finish in first. Even if I'm wrong about the Texans and the Texans do end up winning division, I still like the Jags to win more than 8.5. That would probably be my best bet on this list, the over 8.5 as far as the Jags go. I'm right on the fence with the Texans. I got them at 9 wins. So I don't, 9 or 10 wins. If they went over, wouldn't surprise me. I'm not running to the window to bet this. I struggled with the Colts. I got them over 7.5 wins, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be good enough to win the division. I think they win 8 or 9 games as well, but I don't think 9 wins is going to be good enough to win this division. I think it could take at least 10, maybe 11 to win the division. Then, look, I don't think the Titans are going to be that bad. And this is another one. I wouldn't bet this with your money. I'm not betting the under 6.5 because I do think the Titans will be a little bit better. I just don't know if they're going to be better enough to win 7 games.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page for the most part. Those top 3, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in your order. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Colts won this division. I like Shane Steichen as a head coach. I think he's probably a top 10 head coach in the NFL. My best bet actually would be Titans under 6.5 here. I don't think they're good enough for that. I just need to see a lot more from Cam Ward than what I saw. Now, having said that, I think Brian Daboll, say what you want about his tenure in New York, he is something of a young quarterback whisperer. He did it with Josh Allen in Buffalo. He made Jackson Dart look pretty good when healthy last year. So maybe Cam Ward can take that step. But I also look at the rest of that Tennessee roster, and it's like, okay, Jeffrey Simmons, really good player. Everything else is just like, what are we doing here? I mean, they seem at least a year away. Curious to see the Ohio State Carnell Tate, how he performs with Cam Ward, having that extra weapon. Maybe that sparks something, but I'm just going to have to believe it when I see it.
Hart's going Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Tennessee, although he says he could see Indianapolis and Tennessee flipping. All right, it's time to Adam says, let's talk about the following of Jonathan Taylor last year for the Colts. Started off as the best running back in the league. Then Jones gets hurt and he trailed off. I mean, it was tough to follow up the year that he had the year before that. So
they were also totally one-dimensional after that.
Very.
I mean, they didn't have the corpse of Phillip Rivers, and who else do they have in there at the end of the year? I can't even remember who it was.
Yeah, the Phillips Rivers. That's hilarious. Did Anthony Richardson play? He got hurt too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Even though he was the backup, I think he got hurt.
I can't remember who it was.
No. Let's go. I want to show this before. This is going to be the last time we show. I think I'm going to show it now instead of waiting until we get.
Riley Leonard.
Riley Leonard. I'm going to get to my answer, and let me move this so it's not over your face. Let's put it over. Yeah, let's put it there. Who will have the best season in 2026? Type in the number 1 if your answer is the Houston Texans. Type in the number 2 if your answer is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Type in the number 3 if your answer is the Atlanta Falcons. Type in the number 4 if your answer is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not going to close this probably to either right before or during when Gabe comes on, but I'm going to give people more of a chance to vote. I'm going to vote here right now before we move on. Gabe, you can type in my answer. I am going to vote for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of these 4 teams, I mean, I can't pick the Texans because I got them finishing second.
How is Atlanta even a choice here? And somebody voted for him.
Oh, that was probably UBN.
Like one of the 5 worst teams in the league, man.
That's probably UBN, just being UBN. I'm guessing. I don't know that's the case, but I'm guessing UBN voted for Atlanta. I'm sure it was UBN. I would bet good money that it was UBN.
By the way, by
the way, you can't. Obviously, I left the Saints out on purpose. Other than the Saints, because I didn't want people skewing the poll.
So you felt like you had to pick another NFC. Okay, I see.
Exactly. So I forced someone, and I didn't put Carolina. I put 2 from the South, 2 from the AFC South, 2 from the NFC South. I didn't want to put. I don't think anyone.
Defending division champion.
UBN picked Atlanta Falcons.
Defending division champion Carolina didn't get a nod.
They did not get into the poll.
Before we get to the NFC South, since I was not here last week, I wanted to give you my 1-sentence hot takes on each of the Norths because I wasn't here and you questioned my picks.
Okay, go ahead.
So NFC North, my 1-sentence hot take: the Minnesota Vikings are the only team that plays any defense in that division.
Okay,
so that's why I picked them second.
So you're saying defense wins championships?
I picked them second, so defense wins second place. And then you're really not gonna like this one. My AFC North hot take: the Baltimore Ravens significantly upgraded at head coach in going from John Harbaugh.
Oh, come on, man!
John Harbaugh is so overrated. What is he like? Riding Lamar Jackson's coattails. Congratulations!
He won a Super Bowl before he even got Lamar Jackson.
The game's passed him by.
Oh Lord!
He had great coordinators and a great quarterback, and he could still never get it done after that.
The game's passed him by.
He had Mike McDonald. He had
the Doobie Brothers. Mike McDonald,
who his offensive coordinator was there for a while, but he had. I mean, it doesn't really matter. He had Lamar Jackson, Jesse Minter, good defensive mind. I think they're good.
He had the guy that went to the Giants. What's the dude's Wink Martindale?
Yeah,
he had him.
Yeah, Greg Roman.
Yeah.
I think that
he did it. He's had honestly though, this is his strength. He's had some really good stats. There's a Harbaugh tree now. I got to be honest, there really is.
Todd Monken for a while too as OC.
Yeah, he did have Todd Monken.
I mean, he makes good hires, so I'll give him that. But when he didn't have an elite defensive coordinator like Mike McDonald, that team struggled. Right. And so I think John Harbaugh's. I'm not hating him. I'm not saying he's the worst coach in the NFL or anything. I think he's over. He's a special teams coach who's sort of a CEO type. And when the coordinators and the players under him are good, he's good. When he doesn't have that New York, he's going to fall flat on his face. Jesse Minter's a real football coach. Baltimore
drinking the Harbaugh haterade. I think it's his brother who really sucks.
I think his brother's a much better coach than he is.
Let's see. Well, you also think you should go for it on 4th down and 3 from your own 48. Which is kind of stupid, but anyway. All right. Moving on to the NFC South. Here it is. Drum roll, please. Wait, do we even have? I don't even know if we have a. Do we have a drum roll? I gotta look before we do this. I mean, I kind of messed it up. We got a gong. Yeah, there we go. We got applause. That's the best I can do. Closest thing to a drum roll. Here we go. NFC South times. There you go. That's not bad. Zach, you have got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the NFC South. They're the only team you got going over. We got a lot of unders in this show. Over the course of 4 weeks, we have had, I guarantee, I know I counted mine. I had 14 overs and 18 unders. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm not usually an under guy, but I guess I'm pessimistic about these high win totals. You've got over 8.5 for the Bucs, Under 7.5. Saints in second, but under 7.5. Under 7.5 for the Panthers, you got in third. And in last place, you got them hated Dirty Birds at under 6.5.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are due for a healthy year. They were absolutely ravaged with injuries last year. And if you give all teams equal health, the Bucs just have the best roster in the division. And I don't know that it's particularly close. Maybe Baker Mayfield falls off a cliff or he gets hurt, and this is just, then they're in trouble. But I just think they just have more talent than the other teams in the division. Another guy who's proven himself pretty adept at hiring good offensive coordinators in Todd Bowles. We'll see what they got, but I can't help but think back. We always tend to forget the first half of the year, like the Colts last year. The Bucs were one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the NFL for the first 9 weeks of the season last year. Then the injuries started to take their toll. Baker was playing hurt. Schedule got a little bit tougher, and they couldn't beat anybody at the end. But I think they're the best team. Everybody else I'm just kind of down on, and I went back and forth on the Saints a little bit, but I ultimately think there are just too many things that could go wrong for this team to just suddenly be a 500 caliber team. I think that they could easily be a better team than they were in 2025, but finish with the same record. I think that's certainly possible, where they just don't win as many close games or the injuries get them a little bit. Obviously, if Shough misses a couple games, I've let it be known what my opinion on that is. So I think 7-10 is your most likely record for the Saints. Same with Carolina, actually. They're a huge regression candidate in my eyes. I know that's a popular take, but I agree with it. Bryce Young, not a fan. They've already had some injuries. And then the Falcons, man, you're going to have to defend your spot on the Falcons because I know you like Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski had some bad years in Cleveland when he had nothing going, and he's got nothing going on this roster.
It's a great segue there. You know where I'm going with this. I couldn't be much more different. I got the Falcons winning the division. I think the Falcons actually have a winning record when all is said and done. We can play this back when they win 3 games, and I can look silly, and it'll be fun. We'll have fun with it. I got Falcons over 6.5. I got under for everybody else. I got the Bucs in second place. Although I had the Saints and I kind of moved them back. I'm really iffy on those two. I would have, if you want to put the Saints second, fine. If you want to put the Bucs second, third, fine, whatever. I think the Panthers finished last in this division. They have so many problems going into this season. I kind of was a little high on them in the offseason, but they've had the Saints have had a lot of injuries. Well, the Panthers have had even just almost as many, and some key injuries, including both of their bookend linemen. Both of their tackles are hurt right now, which could prove to be a major problem for them. I don't think they can run the ball anyway, and so that's putting everything on Bryce Young's shoulders. They got massive issues in Carolina. That's probably my best bet of the 4, I would say. Under 7.5 for Carolina, but right up there is over 6.5 for Atlanta. I get all the turmoil, and we never talked about this, but in fact, I'm going to go back to. I wrote it in my notes up here. I don't feel as strongly with all the things that I've been hearing, but it's funny because Michael Penix is actually back in the race now. Has Tua been that bad? It sounds like it. Ian Rappaport says that Tua's play, quote, made it impossible to let Penix they wanted Penix to ease into the season, wanted to put him on IR and have him just miss the first 4 games and kind of get himself ready, and that he would have a chance to take the job back over like in week 5, 6, 7, somewhere along the lines. But now Tua's been so bad that they're talking about over there that it's Penix's quote-unquote job for the taking, Rappaport says. So that leads to you being right and me being wrong. However, I've seen so many negative things about the Falcons. Again, it's not just Stefanski. I think they have a ton of talent. I don't know how good their defense is going to be, but I think their offense has a chance to be very, very good. And again, I just don't think there's been enough talk about how much Stefanski can make a difference in this division. And I'll give you the floor in just a minute. But as far as the Saints go, look, we talk about schedules all the time. I think they're going to start 0-2. Okay, I would be surprised. I mean, I'm not going to say shocked, but I would be very surprised if they don't start 0-2. And when you put a team that's already mediocre, I mean, there's nowhere else to say it. If Shough's great, he's great, fine. But when you talk about a team, to me, that is likely to start 0-2, you're already putting yourself in a hole. So then the rest of the way, you got to go what is it, 8-7 the rest of the way to go over 7.5. And I think you're just asking a little bit too much. I think this team will be better than they were last year. I think they're going to take a step forward. I think they're going to be fun to watch. I think they're going to lose a lot of tight games, which is why it's going to be tough to pick those first two against the spread. But I just don't think the Saints are ready, quote unquote, for prime time. I think that's coming in 2027.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on the Saints. I think they're a year away. Jordan Tyson already missing, 4 to 6 weeks is not a good sign. You're going to have the same problem as last year where there's just not enough weapons. Again, injuries, that's one of the takeaways from that Rams game. The result doesn't bother me. The fact that at individual spots they looked so the lack of depth is just glaring. And I think if they're undoubtedly going to be injuries, and so you start to worry about that. As far as the Falcons go, man, like Stefanski had some good seasons in Cleveland. What was the common denominator? He had this elite defense that he's an offensive guy. He wasn't really, doesn't get credit for that side of the ball. So the Falcons defense was okay last year. They found a pass rush, but what happened to those guys? Jalen Walker's out for the season with injury. James Pierce is suspended for 6 games, I think, for his off-field transgressions. They're not going to have that pass rush. I don't think you can rely on the defense, and so that now Stefanski's got to build an offense. And yes, elite skill position. Few teams have better skill positions starters with Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. But
and the Saints can't look. I don't know if the Saints can stop those guys. I mean, how are the Saints going to stop the Drake Londons and the Kyle Pitts and the I just
let Michael Penix sail the ball over their head. That's how they're going to stop them.
We'll see, man. I don't know if that's the case or not. And Ryan, by the way, you say there won't be a winning record in this division. I disagree. And I think it's too easy to say that. And the reason why is it never in the history of the National Football League has there ever been back-to-back champions of any division where the champion has had a losing record. So it just doesn't happen that often. And it never has happened in back-to-back years. And it happened last year. Carolina won the division with an 8-9 record. Tampa Bay was also 8-9, I believe. I just think somebody's going to win at least 9 games. And I honestly, I was saying before, I really thought the division was going to be better, and I didn't want to pick 300s. But when I just start looking at these teams, I'm not high on Tampa Bay at all, and I'm not ready to say the Saints are a 9-win team, and I'm certainly not picking Carolina to win 9 games. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think if 8-9 does win the division again, then anybody could win it because anybody could get to 8. Like it just takes just like Carolina last year. All you got to do is win a couple games you shouldn't win, and you go from a 6-win team to an 8-win team, and then you have a chance at 8-9. So if that happens again, it's probably good for the Saints because I would be surprised if the Saints jump all the way up to like 10 wins this year. Yeah. I don't think that's very likely.
Ryan says, you know what that means, it's due. Yeah, well, you know what happens if you bet against a streak over and over again? If you keep betting against streaks, you lose your ass. So Ryan says, has been saying it for much division is worse than last year. I don't know that I agree with that. And even if it is worse, that doesn't mean jack when it comes to records. You can have a worse division and somebody still finishes with 9 or 10 wins. I mean, you can have a team that, like the Saints. I think the Saints are better than they were last year. They may not win more games than they won last year. But I think when this season is said and done, we'll be sitting here, my prediction is that we'll be sitting here saying that the Saints are a better team than they were last year, even if they finish with the same record.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the things that had to happen last year for it to be an 8-9 season. The Saints had to sweep the Panthers.
Correct.
Then the Panthers had to turn around and beat the Bucs on that final game. You also needed the Saints to beat the Bucs.
And you needed the Bucs to lose, 7 out of their last 8 games or something like that?
The Saints getting hot actually is what contributed to that.
Correct.
Because they beat the Panthers twice and the Bucs down the stretch.
Everything has to fall just wrong, let's say, instead of just right.
So even if the division is worse on balance than it was last year, it's still unlikely that somebody just doesn't stumble their way into 9 wins.
Right, and I'm not going to be wrong. I'm probably not going to be wrong about 3 of the 4 teams. I'm probably not going to be right about 4 teams. So, I mean, somebody's going to be wrong. Tampa Bay is going to outperform, or I'm going to be completely wrong about the Saints or Panthers or whatever. So there's a good chance that one of those teams actually go over. But anyway, John Hamilton says he hates to agree with his under 7.5 wins, but He's keeping his expectations low and his hopes high. I don't think that's a good way to go about it, right?
No, that's a perfectly healthy way to look at it as a fan.
All right.
What's your best bet here? What's your Falcons? Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with best bet. I would have said Falcons probably just a week ago. I think I'm going with under 7.5 for the Panthers because I think they're going to win like 5 or 6 games. And the Falcons are super close. I think the Falcons win 9 or 10 games. I really do. I think the Falcons are going to win 9 or 10 games. Falcons
win 9 or 10. That's your best bet. That's over by 3 wins.
That's true.
Right. I'm either Panthers under with you or I'm Bucks over. I think the Bucks win 9 at least. So
I don't get it. They lost half their receiving core. Ibuka's already banged up. Baker's pissed off, and Bowles is overachieved in my opinion. But I guess maybe by default. I mean, I don't have any problem with you picking them to win the division because the whole division does kind of stink. But I just don't get how that would be your best bet to win. To have a winning Tampa Bay to have a winning season is your best bet in this division. Seems kind of much.
6 games against the rest of this riffraff.
Hart says they win 10. We'll see. I think this is the year they take they won it. Look, I don't think anyone's ever won the NFC. Here's another thing that's never happened. I don't think anyone's ever won the NFC South 5 years in a row.
Well, they didn't win it last year.
Oh, that's right. They sure didn't. So that would break the streak. That's right because they had the same record as Carolina but didn't win the division. I don't know, man. This division is tough to predict. It might be the toughest one to predict of all 8, honestly. So we'll see. All right, final thoughts on the Saints before we move on. Bring that Saints slide back up. Look, what are you looking for tomorrow? Is there anything that you're actually looking for? Do you care about? We never talked about the kicker battle. Let's talk about that real quick before we let everybody go. You and I joked. You had Tanner. I had Charlie. We may both be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Tanner Brown might have just cost himself the job with 1 kick last week, which is crazy to say, but I think it goes to show how little confidence the Saints had in either of those guys. It's funny. Jeff Nowak of WWL posted he's been tracking their stats all preseason.
Formerly of NOLA.com.
Yeah, and he had, I think, Tanner Brown has had a better percentage than Charlie Smith, and he's been better from 50 plus. So you think, oh, well, he's just been better. But he's missed 4 kicks inside of 40 yards.
Oh, Lord.
And you just can't have that. And so it's weird because Charlie Smith was always the guy who, like, hey, he can make you a 60-yard field goal, but he'll go miss an extra point. It's kind of been the opposite. He's been only 6 of 12 from 50 plus, Charlie has, but he's been really good inside of 40. Whereas Tanner Brown has struggled inside of 40. He's been good from 50 plus. And so I think Carlson could come in here and win the job. I think he gets the bulk of the duties tomorrow night. That's definitely something to watch for. Quarterback, we'll see if either one of those guys can take the job and run with it. And I will be curious because Kellen said most of the starters are not going to play. So does he pick and choose a handful who we haven't seen yet to get out there? Does Danny Stutzman play a few snaps when he hasn't played all preseason? Things like that. Some younger guys who are going to play significant minutes and they just want to get them out there under the lights a little bit. So I'll be curious to see that. And then just in general, like, again, last week's result doesn't bother me as much as like just being out there and kind of not having the juice to begin the game and all of that penalties. They had 12 penalties. Like, I want to see that stuff cleaned up, even if it's the second and third stringers. I just want to see that Kellen Moore was able to take that and kind of take this team by the neck and shake it a little bit and say, hey, let's whip into shape before the regular season. Just from a general coaching perspective, is he able to do that?
Yeah, as far as kicker goes, look, I don't think you bring in a Daniel Carlson, unless you have it in your mind that you're probably going to sign him. And to me, Charlie Smith, Tanner Brown doesn't make a difference. One of those guys you could put on the practice squad if you want to. Now, you no longer get the exemption with Charlie Smith that you got before, which is why he was on the practice squad so long. So if you want to hold on to one of them, you probably can and put him on the practice squad. I don't think anybody's going to be running to sign either one of them. But I just don't think you bring Daniel Carlson in the building unless you plan on signing him. I mean, plan on using him.
Yeah, I almost think his agent probably was waiting for an opportunity, and not that you're going to guarantee a player.
Right.
I think agents realize
But
that.
you give him the tip.
You're like, look,
100%.
if you come in here and your guy just doesn't fall flat on his face, he's going to be starting week
exactly.
one. I think
that happens all the time.
Probably took place.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that's probably going to happen. All right, we'll see what happens. QB2 battle. What's your prediction? We won't. By the time we talk again, it will be done.
Yeah, I think it's Rattler. Just like I said, Ty goes to the incumbent and the guy who's under contract longer. I don't know if he's any cheaper because Wilson was pretty cheap, but maybe slightly cheaper. I think Ty goes to Rattler, and right now they're tied in my eyes. So unless something changes on Friday night, then I'll say he does. And I think you could pretty easily stow Zach Wilson on your practice squad if you want to.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say this. I'm going to change my prediction. I would personally pick Wilson. Again, I don't care enough about it. I predict, even though I would pick Wilson, I'm going to predict it would be Rattler because I feel the same as you. I think that it's pretty much been a tie. They both stink. Tie goes to the incumbent. But I'm also going to go back to, and if you didn't hear us talking about this earlier, when we're done with the show, you probably need to go back and rewind and listen to our conversation about this. Zach and I both think that we would not be surprised if they watch the waiver wire and someone that gets cut ends up being the Saints' backup. Would not surprise me at all because right now the Saints don't have a legitimate QB2 in the back. I've changed my opinion on that. I thought Rattler could be a backup quarterback. Now I don't necessarily think that.
I think they want to keep him around, but I don't think they want him to be.
He certainly can make it to the practice squad.
I would think so, yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. All right. We will see you next week, Zach. Next week we are doing our predictions for playoffs. We will do our complete playoff breakdown. We will pick the NFC and AFC championship game and the Super Bowl here in the first show of September. I'm looking forward to it because we'll probably be very different.
Yeah, I think so. I honestly don't know who I'm going to pick, but I'll think about it before.
Well, you got all week to think about it. We'll see you next Thursday.
All right.
All right. Zach Ewing, everybody. Brandon says, yep, Jimmy G or any decent vet don't need Shough having to teach the QB. Shough's not teaching anybody, Brandon. I will say that. The QB2 primary job is to be a second set of eyes. Shough's not teaching anybody anything. That's not the position he's in. So I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree, but I will say this, and I've said this before. If it goes to QB2, whether it's Spencer Rattler, Zach Wilson, or some seasoned vet, the Saints are in deep doo-doo, and that's not who this team is. This team is still a team in transition, okay? So this is why I don't have a problem at all. If Kellen Moore sits down and they're trying to make a decision on who to keep and who to cut, and they decide to keep Spencer Rattler, the reason why I'm like, okay. I mean, you defer to the decision of the head coach, but this is still a team in transition. This is not a team that's going to win. Even if they somehow go beyond our expectations and win the division, or because it's going to take winning the division to go to the playoffs, my opinion, most likely. You're fine. You know, but I think it's going to, again, I would pick Wilson because I think he has a better chance to be, not a much better chance, by the way. It's not like saying he's got a 70%. No, I think he has a much better chance to be a QB2 for the long run if you're picking one of the guys. But I think they're going to go with Rattler. I think what I see through their eyes is I think that they probably like Rattler better. I just think that's the way they're going to go. So we'll see who's right. And again, it's not that big of a deal. But we'll be talking about it, I'm sure, on Monday's show, along with the other cuts on Monday morning. Noah Man, good morning. Glad you're here. Adam wants to know if Tyson has lingering. Are we really asking this in August? But okay. If Tyson has lingering injuries this season, do I think the Saints draft another wide receiver? I'm not trying to be a dick, Adam, when I say this. But ask me that in December or January. Let's don't already start asking about who the Saints are going to pick in next year's draft in August. There is literally I guarantee you the Saints have not, and here's the point of this. Again, not trying to be a dick, but the Saints are, I promise you, 100% this is the case. They are not sitting in a room thinking, what do we do in the draft next year if this guy can't play? No one's thinking that. There's no way to answer that. So, I mean, I don't think they're concerned that the injuries are going to linger. And to even ask a question if injuries linger for a guy right now, I just think that's kind of silly, in my opinion. You know? Hart says we drafted 3 receivers. Don't think you need to worry about drafting receivers right. I don't think we need to worry about drafting anything right now. I don't think even the Arizona Cardinals, who might win 2 games this year, who have their stud pick, Jeremiah Love, is banged up right now. They're not thinking about who they're drafting in next year. Anybody who thinks that any NFL team thinks about tanking in August is an idiot. No NFL team is thinking about tanking in August. Therefore, you're not thinking about what you're going to draft next year. Just saying. Barry says maybe the Saints are the only NFL team with 2 QB3s. That's true. And it goes back to, remember a week or 2 ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I don't know. They get my weeks mixed up. There were people calling me out because I said there was no way this team's going to have 3 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. They did it last year. They're not going to do it with this team. Okay? They're not going to have 3. They're not going to waste a spot on the 53-man roster with a 3rd quarterback. If you had 3 really good ones and you didn't know which one. Now, last year, they didn't know who QB1 was, so it was easier when they had Jake Haener active or on the 53-man roster. You had no clue, really, who your best quarterback is this time last year. I mean, we might have known, or people might say they knew, but nobody knew. That's why. So it's different this year. You have a clear-cut number 1, and if you need a 3rd one, at some point you can find one. They're not going to waste a roster spot. And by the way, the roster was not nearly as good last year as it is this year. You're not going to waste a roster spot on something you can give to a RB4 or a wide receiver 6 or, God forbid, I mean, you probably don't. I didn't even give Zach any grief over this. A tight end 4. That's not going to happen now. Silver Gator says Wilson will go to the practice squad. I don't think so. I don't think Wilson's going to want to go to the practice squad. I think he'd rather be a free agent. That's my guess. I don't know this. I mean, is it impossible that Zach Wilson would go to the practice squad if they decide to keep Rattler and cut Wilson? They might give him the opportunity if he wanted to stick around, but I don't think he's going to go to the practice squad. I think he's been in the league too long to do that. Hart says, no one, not a single person who works in the NFL. Now, fans might think about it. Not a single person who works in the NFL. Scouts are a different story because that's their job. They're not necessarily thinking about who they're going to draft, but they're scouting players. Great. But as far as like people on an actual football staff, not someone scouting or whatever, no one's thinking about who they're going to draft next year. No one is thinking about this isn't the NBA. No one is thinking about tanking in August. No one. No one. Just saying. Earl's Pick says that. I mean, it's a subject that fires me up. If you haven't watched the show, you know that fires me up. It's silly. It'd be absolutely moronic. No matter how bad you might think your team's going to be, it would be absurdly stupid. It's first of all, it's stupid to lose on purpose anyway. It's absurdly stupid to even think about losing on purpose in August. Earl says they're not thinking about next draft, and this team won't tank 100%. There was one other comment I wanted to go to before I move on to Gabe, and it was, where is it? I got to go back here. This isn't the one, but I am going to show this one. I'm picking the Falcons to be different. Yes, I'm picking them to be different. Because you could pick almost anyone. Which divisional games do I think are the most dangerous? Honestly, for the Saints, the Falcons. Because Drake London is unquestionably the best receiver in this division, in my opinion. I mean, Chris Olave is really good, and Tedero McMillan is really good. but I think Drake London is a top 5 or 7 receiver in the NFL. And who's going to cover him? I don't know. That's just my opinion. So I think the Falcons are the toughest team for the Saints to go up against. I think they're better than the Bucs. I think they're better than the Panthers. What happened that way? I don't know. I don't know where the comment is that I wanted to see. But anyway, the question that I wanted to bring up was somebody said the Falcons, and I don't remember who it was. Might have been Ryan. The Falcons have a tough schedule, a tougher schedule than the Saints. I don't think that's true at all. They start off with Pittsburgh and Carolina. Okay, both very winnable games. Could be 2-0. Then they play Green Bay, because they're 2-1. Let's say they lose to the Saints and they're 2-2. Then you go down the line. So there it is. Bill said it. But listen how this schedule ends. Okay, y'all know what I think about Minnesota. I know some of y'all disagree with me. So, but even if you disagree, here it is. Okay, they play at Minnesota in November 29th. Home for Detroit. Okay, let's say they lose that one. But then they play this is how they finish the season, at Cleveland, at Washington, against the Bucs at home, against the Saints at home, and at Carolina. They could win all 5 of those games. Will they? I don't know. But if you start off 2-0, to win 9 games, I mean, even my Shough math tells me that you only have to win 7 more after that, and I think they could win 5 of those. In between, they got some interesting games. They play San Francisco, I think is going to take a big step back. No offense, UBN. Tampa Bay's in there. What's going to happen? They play 3 games in a row at home. Baltimore, Chicago, San Francisco. I don't know. We'll see. Calvin, you missed it before. How many do I think the Saints are going to win? I've been saying since June, and I have not changed my opinion. I guess today's my official prediction. I theoretically could change, but won't. My prediction is 7-10. I think the Saints will win 7 games. It wouldn't surprise me if they won 6. It wouldn't surprise me if they won 8. I'm not running the window to bet the under 7.5. But right now, my best guess, I say 7-10. That's where I'm at. Josh is saying the Saints this is why we don't go by. You're going by last year's records, Josh, behind the Bengals and Browns. The Saints have the third easiest schedule. Nobody has an easier schedule than the Detroit Lions. Sorry. Don't care what records were last year. The Detroit Lions have the easiest schedule in the NFL. They do. That's why I picked them to win the NFC North. That's my opinion. But I get paid to give you my opinion. All right, you know what else I get paid to do? I get paid to tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. They can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. They don't just pay me to say that. I want to say that because I want you to go and learn. If you're even contemplating selling your business, you've got to reach out to Evangeline Securities. How do they do it? Glad you asked. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, Native New Orleans and Nick Braden and the folks at Evangeline, they'll begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from, that's right, around the whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities, they're the top producer on their platform, and there are very few companies like them in this area. 0.0. It's like a heartbeat. 0. Oh, could be something else. I better stop doing that. 0.0 with their dedication and success. They're fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick Braden about what's really important. And it's not who has the easiest schedule. That is not what's really important. You know what's really important? How would Dot from Dot's Diner say it? The rest of your life, hot. After she smoked about 4 cigarettes. That's what she would say. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. I hope Nick doesn't mind me like interjecting another business when how many people could do that? Interject another business when they're reading a spot for their primary business, the title spot. How many people could do that? I did. I give Dot's Diner so much free plug. I'm just saying, they got to be getting something out of it. I need to go over. Between the tractors and Dot's Diner, you're talking about some free love, baby. Free love. Sean says I need to go view some. I ain't watching no Falcons podcast. I don't give a rat's ass what they think. They have zero confidence in their quarterback. I don't care what they think. I'm not going to waste my time watching a podcast for the Atlanta Falcons. We're not done yet, Charles. Great show again. You have to take your baby boxer Rosie the vet. Have a great, safe weekend. You too. Sorry, you got to go. Yeah, Becky Allen, the voice of Dot. I should have. Is she still around? Why did I think that she had gone to the world of Dolly? Is Becky Allen still around? Maybe I will have her on the show. Maybe I'll have her read my spot here. That would be awesome. Wouldn't that be awesome? You want to talk about yat? She's still kicking. Okay. I got to find. Yes. I absolutely need to get her on the show. All right. It's time to move on because, we got to get his side of things here. We're about to do the AFC and NFC. We're an NFC South guys. You're an AFC South guy. We're getting ready to get to the predictions. Is there anything else on your mind before we move on to predictions?
No.
That's why he's the best color man in the business. Predictions. Best color man in the business for nothing, pal. All right, let's get to it. I'm going to start off with UBN, who may or may not still be in the comments. He's been given we got a problem in the NFC South. I'm just going to let you know. But his AFC South predictions, how can he screw things up the most and just piss people? No, he picked the Texans. There you go. He's got 3 overs. UBN loves him some AFC South. He's got Texans winning division over 9.5. Jaguars winning second in division over 8.5. He's got the Titans in third place over 6.5. And he really hates him some Danny Dimes because he's got the Colts under 7.5. And in last place, UBN, if you're still out there, just tell us hello. And we'll move on to your picks. You've got, shocker, the Texans winning the AFC South over 9.5. You got Jaguars second over 8.5. You got the Colts and Titans both under 7.5 for the Colts, 6.5 for the Titans. Explain yourself.
This Texans over might be my best bet in the entire NFL slate.
Okay.
I think 9.5 is pretty crazy. They were a 12-win team last year, and they retained all 11 starters on arguably the best unit in football. They upgraded at one of their safety positions. They retooled their offensive line. They got better at running back, and we're thinking they're going to regress by a few games. I don't see it. So yeah, I think the Texans easily win this division.
My thing
yeah, go ahead.
My thing on this is a suspect number. Okay. Whenever I see a super sus number, as the kids like to say, it's sus. There's a reason why it's sus. And I would be willing to bet that anybody who bets this future, of the people that are, not anybody, of the, I'm going to make up a number. Let's say 1,000 people bet on the Texans over under, okay? I would be willing to bet that 900 of those people bet the over. It's too easy to bet the over
let me
for
counter
exact
you.
reasons that you said, and especially the fact they won 12 games last year. The C.J. Stroud ending last year, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't know.
I would rather look at the body of work throughout the regular season, and he was a top half quarterback in the league. So,
yeah,
I'm not worried about that.
Okay, it's a weird number to me. I'm not running.
Let me counter with this.
It's definitely not my best bet. That's for sure. Hart says Houston's got the best defense in the league. Upgraded running back line. Still got some questions. And Higgins' injury hurts, but Houston winning with ease.
They just traded for Kayshon Boutte. So
yeah.
Let me ask you this: if the Texans number is suspect, why are you not sus on the Jaguars number?
Because
they won 13 games last year.
Yeah, but the Jaguars are easy to overlook because they're the Jaguars. If you go back in the history of the Jaguars, when you go look at them over the past 15 years, for the most part, not every year I know is going to be this way, but they'll go 5 wins, and have some weird season out of the nowhere, and then they go back to 5 wins, 2 wins, 1 win. So the general public just thinks of the Jaguars being bad. when you think of the Texans for the most part, you think of pretty decent during the regular season, and then stinking it up in the playoffs. We'll worry about the playoffs when we get there. But again, to me, and what Ryan says, Vegas thinks Stroud is broke. I'm not going to go as far to say he's
the
broke.
AFC South favorites.
I'm not going to say that doesn't matter that he's the favorite. They could think that the AFC South is like the NFC South. I'm not going as far to say Stroud is broke. I like Stroud now. Didn't like him at first, but he certainly.
I'll go as far as to say he
won me over. He won me over. I don't know. I will say this. It's certainly a cause for concern. The way he played at the end of last year is absolutely a cause for concern.
I'm not worried.
Not that I know.
Next week you will see just how confident I am in this team when we talk predictions. I'm very confident in this team. Elsewhere in the division, the hardest thing for me to pick here was Indianapolis's over/under.
Yeah, me too. I think that was my hardest.
I think they're going to be just at 7. I don't know. I don't think they go over.
Yeah,
I think the Titans. I think the Titans are easily the worst team in this division, and I say that not as an insult to Tennessee, even though I love to get my jabs in anytime I have the chance. I just think every other team in this division is good enough to keep them in the basement.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't know why. Maybe UBN just.
Brian, you must not watch much football then, because Nathan Peterman had 4 picks in a single half in his debut. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just maybe in recent memory, it was the worst player performance I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
So, but anyway. Like that's
you watch
hard
the
to,
game,
it's hard to get that taste out of your mouth. I'm just saying, and
a lot of people
as
are
a completely
saying
neutral observer, I could care less about any of the 4 teams in this. Like literally, I don't care one iota about any of these teams. So that's just my opinion. All right, look, the Texans clearly are most people's favorite. They're 3 of the 4 people on our picking crew have the Texans. And again, that's another thing when you're going across the line and all these people are picking the Texans. Kind of bothers me a little bit.
I also think it's because they're clearly the best team in this division. But
okay. I certainly wouldn't say they're clearly the best team in this division. I mean,
if they finish anywhere but first,
opinion,
I will be shocked.
Okay. Well,
put it that way.
You might be shocked. I certainly don't think they're clearly the best team in this division. I think they're better than the Colts and clearly better than the Titans, but I don't think they're clearly better than the Jaguars. Okay, I know. I get it. That's what you think. Let's move on. Here we go to the NFC South, and we're going to start off. I put them in the wrong order. I almost clicked.
One thing, before we move on, one thing that nobody talks about with the Jaguars is what they lost, which is funny for a Saints podcast. No one talks about what they lost in the rushing game. Are we 100% certain that Bashal Tutin is ready to be a number 1?
I mean, I think he's going to be splitting time anyway. I don't think he's necessarily number 1.
With Chris Rodriguez, who got ousted out of Washington.
No, but he had some good moments too. I mean, I think it's more Liam Cohen and his offense as much as
that is fair. That's 100% fair.
I mean,
I think Liam Cohen is offensively a genius.
I think their wide receiving core is pretty damn good, in my opinion. So, again, we'll see. Again,
they struggle with drops.
I don't love Trevor Lawrence. Everybody knows that, but he keeps posting these crazy numbers. So, at some point, you gotta and knock on wood for his sake. Not that I really care, but I mean, he's been very healthy as far as quarterbacks go.
I know how much you love to talk uniforms, dude. Did you see their uniforms that they dropped?
No, I did not.
They have black cheetah print.
Hold on, I gotta look at this now.
You gotta see these. They're bad. As much as they found a way to ruin a teal helmet.
I don't see them.
Type in Jaguars rivalry uniforms.
Okay, hold on. Live TV, boys and girls. Oh God, those numbers are awful. Before we go off the air, when you go off, before you gotta find a way to get a vertical. I mean, get a horizontal if you can.
I can try.
That's awful. That is really bad.
They also look in the promo picture they took. Parker Washington looks like he's 3 feet tall.
Why would they?
And they all just look tiny. Everyone in everything about it is bad.
Live TV, folks. All right, let's get to the NFC South because we got to get rolling. I got to get rolling. NFC South, UBN he's still watching because he just gave us a. He's got the Falcons winning. Now, see again, you got to take UBN's prediction. UBN, by the way, UBN and I have the same exact predictions. I like to the T. We both have the Falcons winning the division and over 6.5, and we got under for the other three in the same order. He's got Bucks, Saints, Panthers behind him. But again, you always got to take UBN's picks with a grain of salt because he just hates the Saints. Jody went and looked at them. Yeah, they're pretty bad. They really are bad.
Really, really bad.
All right. Let's see here. I'm going to. That means it's time to give us Gabe's picks for the NFC South. Mm-hmm. Gabe's got pretty much what Zach's got. He's got over for 3 teams. He's got over for the Bucks, Saints, and Falcons. Under for the Panthers. He thinks the NFC South is going to be better than most people think it's going to be. Got the Bucks winning it all, which are, I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Within reason. We're not going to get crazy.
I think the Bucks go 9-8 and win this division.
Okay. All right. All right.
Am I the only one who had the Saints over? I think I am.
You are the only one who has the Saints over.
I was going to say, I think I'm the only one. I think the Saints go 8-9 this year.
Okay.
I think they finish second in this division. That might surprise some people. I think they've got a defense that I was talking to some friends about their defense the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, their defense is just really mediocre. There's no like standout names." I'm like, there doesn't have to be. They're just a solid unit,
right?
And I think that along with the investments they made on offense are going to be enough to kick them up a few games this season. I still don't think, they're not a playoff team this year. I don't think they're a 10-win team this year, but I think they're 8-9. I think it's another step in the right direction for the Saints.
Real quick before you go on, we keep receipts on the show. Josh the Voice, this is not correct. The Jaguars 2026 schedule starts with only 3 home games in the first 11 weeks. That is not true. They are home against Cleveland in week 1. They are home against Cincinnati in week 4, and they are home against Indianapolis in week number 8. So that is incorrect. Then they play
that's 3 in the first 11.
3 in the first 8. He said. Okay.
He said 3 in the first 11.
Oh, okay. I thought he said 2. My bad. And I will say
you
this.
Only named 3. Do they have a 4th?
No, but I'm going to say this about the Jags real quick. As when we're talking about their schedule, they are used to playing in Europe, and I think that gives them an advantage when they play a tougher team there. I would rather play a tougher team in Europe, somewhere they go every year. Trevor Lawrence has now done it. What is this, his 6th season or 7th season? Whatever it is. In the NFL, 2020 was his first season,
2020.
So it's his 7th season coming up. He's as used to it as anyone. They play back-to-back weeks there. You don't have to go to Philadelphia. They don't have to go play in Philadelphia. They're playing Philadelphia in Europe. Will they win that game? I have no idea. But I would rather play Philadelphia in Europe where you used to go, and then you play Houston. You're making them go, and then they have their bye week. So that's another thing I actually like about Jacksonville. So anyway, go back to your.
I'm old enough to remember what happened the last time the Texans played the Jags in London, though.
Yeah. Ryan says that the Saints are hosting home. But 8 wins is not going to win the NFC. I will bet you any amount of. Okay, I can't bet money because that would be wrong to do on this show, and I'd probably get.
Also, I appreciate Ryan taking only my thoughts into account. Completely ignoring everyone else on this show who picked the Saints to go under.
We can make some silly bet, Ryan, but 8 wins is not going to win the NFC South. It's just it's not going to. It's not going to happen. Something that's never happened in the NFL in the history of the NFL. I'm not saying it can't happen because of course it can happen, but it's highly unlikely and probably isn't going to happen. And if you're going to give me the side that it's not going to happen and we make a silly bet, I'm happy to do so. Anyway.
Yeah, so the one thing I'll comment on the NFC South is a collective. I actually think these schedules are a lot harder than a lot of people think. I think the divisions that they play are pretty difficult.
It's harder than the last
overall.
2 years, for sure.
For sure. But one thing I like with the Bucks, I like that you have a pissed off Baker.
Right.
I think Todd Bowles, I don't think the world of Todd Bowles. I think he's a better coach than people give him credit for. And one thing that a lot of people also overlook is Bucky Irving missed 7 games last season. He's coming back healthy. They've also got depth behind him again.
Right.
Sure, that receiving core has some questions, but I think Baker's good enough to make up for the deficiencies potentially out there. I think they got younger in those spots, which makes sense. Chris Godwin is looking like he's going to be healthy again. The one team I just don't Atlanta is one team that I don't love picking anywhere. I don't know what they're going to be. You know, part of me agrees with you. Stefanski's a fantastic coach.
Right.
Part of me is also very concerned about what you've seen from the quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's been a mess.
Or from Tua, and then I don't think Michael Penix is all that great.
Yeah,
and then the kicker for me with Atlanta is what people in the comments alluded to earlier. They're pass rushers.
Oh, not
they have no they have no pass rush this year with Pierce's suspension and with injuries elsewhere. They're really going to struggle defensively, I think. And then I just think Carolina is. I think last year was kind of a fluke. They took advantage of the missteps of the rest of the division. I think they're going to be humbled this year by 3 teams who, by all accounts, are going to be better than they were last year. And I don't think Bryce Young is the guy. I really don't.
It's hard for anyone to even if.
And then, as you mentioned.
I'm as nice to Bryce Young as anyone. And I just think that, look, when you talk about what they're going to have to do this year and how much pressure is going to be put on him, you can't have a lot of confidence in him.
Not only that, they're not going to be able to run the ball as well.
That's what I mean.
They lost Rico Dowdle.
Literally putting all the pressure on Bryce Young, and I can't.
Their running game last year was the reason that they were in that spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure, you had Tet McMillan going for over 1,000,
right?
And I think Tet McMillan is still a really good receiver. But Bryce Young is not going to have the time in the pocket that he did last year, and he's not going to have the running game to lean on because if you're going into the season already talking about your backup running back.
Yeah,
moving ahead of your starter, who's been wildly inefficient for the last few years.
Pretty bad.
You know, it's kind of one of those things where if you have 2 quarterbacks, do you really have a quarterback? Jonathan Brooks is always injured. I don't like Carolina. I think they take a step back, and I think they're comfortably 4th place.
I really think they're like 4 or 5
That was my best
win.
bet for this.
They're like 4 or 5 win. Yeah, and I think I've changed my opinion on the. Again, I hear what Zach says. Like it should be the way I talk. It should be Falcons over, and I am high on the Falcons over. But at this point, I just don't have with what's happened to Carolina and over the course of the last 3 weeks. I just don't see how I don't make my best bet the under 7.5 on Carolina. That number's way too high. I don't get why that number's that high. That number should be at least 6.5, and 6.5 and juice to the under is what it should be, but it's not. So, but anyway, I think you want to see for the most part eye to eye there. All right, we will see you on Monday for a birthday edition. Are you celebrating in style this weekend? What's going on?
Not really. Don't really have any plans.
Come on, man. The girlfriend doesn't have any big plans set up.
No, I don't
Maybe
really.
It's a
don't really have
call.
any plans.
Maybe it's a surprise. We don't even know.
That's my worst nightmare. If you want to know what my nightmares consist of, it's unplanned social interaction. The worst thing in the world.
Social interaction.
It's week 0 of college football.
That's true.
There we go.
That's what I'm probably going to spend a lot of my birthday doing. We will see you on Monday. We'll tell you again, but happy birthday weekend, and we'll see you.
Likewise.
See you Monday.
Enjoy your birthday this weekend.
We'll see you Monday, and we'll do our predictions next Thursday.
I'm looking forward to it.
Get me before we go off the air, if you can get me show everybody the Jacksonville,
the Jaguars. Yeah. I got you.
All right, a couple comments before we go off the air this morning that I had here. Silver Gator says no run stop on the Saints defense. Okay. I mean, we'll see. Look, when you're talking about what Atlanta has, I think they're going to have bigger trouble stopping a deep pass. I think the Saints going to have a lot of deep passes. That's what scares the hell out of me when you're looking at what they're going to do. Randall's here. Good morning. Here's the Saints going 10-7 this year, winning the division and a home playoff game. I love your pie in the sky optimism, but I don't see it. I think I'm going to say they obviously have a better chance to win 10 games than they had last year. And I'm not saying that no one would happen. I'm saying as we sat here last year, Gabe was willing to buy a Saints jersey and wear it on the air if they won 10 games. And I was telling you there was about a 0.4% chance of winning 10 games. This year, I will tell you, I would give the Saints about a 10 to 15% chance, maybe 20. Let's be optimistic. I'll give them a 20% chance of winning 10 games. It's not 20%, but I'll give them a 20% chance of winning 10 games just to be optimistic. Okay. But if you're predicting they win 10 games, and you really believe that, I'm not giving any financial advice whatsoever, but I'm just going to say that if you go to Vegas, you can probably make a few bucks if they actually do that. Just going to say that. Calvin says he thinks they're going to win 10 games as well. Look, I love the optimism. I don't see it. It's not just the injuries. In fact, it's not even the injuries. The injuries, for the most part, don't have anything to do with how many wins or losses I think they're going to have. I think Tyler Shough is going to have some lean times, and I truly believe the Saints are going to be 0-2. Okay, let's just say that I'm right on that point. Give me that point that they're 0-2. Okay, I know they're going to Detroit. I mean, they're a touchdown underdog to Detroit and a little over a touchdown underdog at Baltimore. Okay, so let's just give me that for a minute. That they start 0-2. They start 0-2. To finish with 10 wins, they got to go 10-5 the rest of the way. Okay, they got to win twice as many games they lose the rest of the way. They got road games in Cincinnati. They got a road game at the Bears, and not only do they have those 2 road games, but they have a stretch of 3. I think they're not home for like 5 weeks at some point in the season, like towards, not at the end, but the latter half. Now, they got some easier games in there, but you got to remember, some of the games that are easier, other teams are thinking it's easy too. So, real quick, showing that. Go ahead and show it, Gabe. This, if you're wondering, by the way, here are your Jaguars rival unis. That is, does that say Gold City? What the flip is gold? I've never heard Jacksonville ever called Gold City. The helmets are bad, and the uniforms are Bold City. I've never heard Jacksonville called Bold City, and my grandmother, I grew up going to Jacksonville at least once a year. My grandmother lived in Ponte Vedra. I went to Jacksonville all the time when I was a kid. Spent a month there when I was, I think, 7 or 8, whatever it was. Anyway, that's awful. The font on that number is awful. That's just so bad. But anyway. Whatever. So look, I got to be honest though. I hope y'all are right. I would much rather talk about a team that wins 10 games than talk about a team that wins 6 or 7. But it's those stretches that I tell you about. Again, the Giants are sitting there saying, well, we got the Saints on our schedule in week 5 or whatever it is, or week 6 or whatever the hell, week 6. Well, I mean, they're thinking they're going to win that game too. Ryan, what was the bet that we made? Almost made a few months ago. I think it was the under on the total division wins. I'm not going to make that bet, but I will make a bet with you that the winner of this division has more than 8 wins. So you would actually win 8-1. You would win. If you want to make that bet and we can think of something goofy to do, I'm all about it. But you ain't going to win that bet. Randall says the Saints are going to go to the playoffs and lose to Philly okay. Randall, we talked about this earlier. I know you weren't here, but no team has ever won the NFC South 5 years in a row. The Tampa Bay did not win the division last year. Carolina did. So I said the same thing and I was corrected. Jody, happy birthday a couple days early. Thank you so much. My birthday is Saturday. And I will probably be celebrating it with my daughter-in-law, whose birthday was yesterday. And we generally go have a dinner day. In fact, my nephew is coming in from Panama City, and his birthday is the same day as mine. So we have 3 birthdays that we're celebrating. That's probably how we're going to do Saturday night. We'll probably be at some sushi joint on the North Shore is my guess. So if you want to come find me, check out the sushi joints on the North Shore. Silver Gator says they need a kicker to win 10. They could have the prime of Morton Anderson come back, and I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference, in my opinion. Paul says if they lose to the Raiders, then he's worried. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to worry you is if they lose to the Raiders? So if they beat the Raiders, you're good? I don't know. John Hamilton's laughing at them Jags uniforms. So is Sean. Look like some JV squad uniform. By the way, speaking of JV squads, I just got to shout out my grandson. He made he's going to be the starting right guard for the Montleone Marlins, who open up their schedule. It's a 7th and 8th grade team. That's right. Montleone Marlins playing North Lake Christian tonight. I'll be there. Thank you, S. Callie. Josh wants to know if I'll be attending any Saints games this year. Unfortunately, yes. I mean that in the nicest way possible. I am credentialed once again, and I will be going to most games. Not all of them. There'll probably be a couple that I don't go to, but most of the games I know that I'm going to be at the first 3. Raiders, then on a Monday night against Atlanta, then Minnesota. I will be at all 3 of those. So, yeah. That is going to wrap it up for us today. You see it on the screen. The next show is Monday, August the 31st, 9 a.m. Again, we'll be celebrating Gabe's birthday. I'll be reminiscing about how mine went. And we'll be talking about the cut-down date, which is on Sunday. So we'll be talking about who made the team, who didn't. There will be some surprises. There always are surprises. No matter what, there are always surprises. You know? Randall, he says it's a blessing to get paid to cover the Saints. I'm not complaining that I got to go cover the Saints. Let's just leave it at, I would rather cover them from my living room. I'm old. I'm crotchety. I've been there. I've done that. I've talked to players. It is what it is. And it is what it is. S. Callie, we have decided on the fantasy draft date. Musette, by the way, if you're watching, you got to get in there, and or we're going to have to give your spot away. It is going to be it's the Sunday before Labor Day, right? Sunday, what is that? What day is that? The week from this Sunday, whatever day that is. The 6th? Is that the 6th? I think it's the Sunday the 6th at 5 o'clock Central Time. So, yes, it's in there. If you're in the fantasy league and you're wondering when it's going to, the 6th, there you go. If you're in the fantasy league, you can just go click in it and it'll tell you. It's got all the details in there. And UBN's got 3 drafts on the 6th, and you got 1 on the 7th. I mean, you're bad for being in that many leagues. Alvin, thank you so much. We appreciate you. All the regulars, thank you. And there's Gabe talking about it, September the 6th at 5 p.m. Central Time. And if you can't make it for some reason, you can rank your players in order, and you can do auto draft. Not that anybody cares about our fantasy league, but that is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday. I want to thank today's guest, of course, Zach Ewing, Gabe Henderson, UBN in the background, and you. You were always a guest, but you know you're more than a guest. You know you're more than a guest. So can't wait to talk about the cut-down date. Who is going to be the biggest surprise? Is it going to be Rattler? Is it going to be Wilson? Who's it going to be? Or is it going to be both of them? That would be the biggest surprise. A reminder to subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't already done so. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live, which is every Monday and Thursday at 9 a.m. And starting on September the 13th, also Sunday at 9 a.m. for a pregame show. Tell your friends about the Dattitude podcast if you haven't done so. We want them all. We want a big old happy family here. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. I want to say hello to all our regulars out there. Thank you so much to our Dattitude members, our paid members. We can't do this without all of you. Not just the members, the regulars, the members, all of you. We couldn't do it without you. Have a fantastic, wonderful, glorious weekend. Enjoy the game, the final preseason game, and we will see you all on Monday. And until then, we'll see you then. Take it easy, my friends.